Hi, Anna, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Now you're on the video.
Can you see me or hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes,
Mhm.
we can see and hear you.
Okay, thank you.
And unmute that.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, John, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so you're on. All right,
All
you're
right.
live.
What's today's date? 14.
14.
Okay, should we start?
Mhm.
Okay. Good evening. I'd like to call to order the September 14th, 2021 Old Bridge Township Council meeting. Please rise for a pledge of allegiance. Please remain standing for a moment of silence and our prayer. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the flag
of
of the
the
United States of America
and to the republic
for
for
which
which
it stands,
one
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As customary in this chamber, we stand for a moment of silence to remember those who are protecting our freedoms, both here and abroad, for our first responders, for those who made the ultimate sacrifice, and this evening for some Old Bridge residents. Dr. Greenberg Belli?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Can you hear me? Okay. And Mary, did you call on me?
yes, yes.
Okay. I'd like to have a moment of silence for someone we lost very dear, who was very dedicated to this town, Donald Shuck. He was married to his wife, Pat Shuck, for 63 years. He lived in Old Bridge for 62 years. He worked in the road department for 31 years. He was a member of the Cheesequake Fire Volunteer Fire Department, where he was chief for several years. He was a blacksmith and a farrier. He worked with the children. He was a mentor to them with the 4-H club, and he fostered many children and had 3 children of his own. He has many grandchildren and great-grandchildren. He will severely be missed, and he will have a very much an impact on all of us in this town who knew him. He was also a member of the Historical Society, and he had a life well lived. Rest in peace, Donald.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Greenberg. And now Mayor Henry?
Thank you, Council President, council members. I'd like to acknowledge the passing of Chief William Volkert Sr., who died recently. Officer Volkert at the time joined the Madison Township Police Department in 1956. He rose through the ranks of the department and was named chief in 1980 and served as chief until 1986. Mr. Volkert also served his country proudly in the United States Navy from 1951 to 1955 as a CB. And on a personal note, I would like to thank Mr. Volkert for, on my first day on the job, he was in my office and he asked me if I was crazy. And my response to him was, crazy people don't know that they are crazy. And he replied and said, Mayor Henry, you'll be just fine. So, and he was a constant, frequent visitor to the town after his retirement, was involved in a lot of things. He was a ace mechanic. He could fix anything, and he will be missed. He left his mark on this community, and our thoughts and prayers are with the Volkert family. So thank you, Council President.
Our prayer, Mr. Piscitty.
O Lord, bless your servants in the ministry of public affairs who serve you in this chamber, in this meeting. Please give us quiet minds and hearts that we may hear thy voice. Help us to know when to speak, when to be silent. Give us strength to oppose the wrong and uphold the right, and grant us that we have a good conscience, a soul at peace with thee and with one another. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Please be seated.
For roll call, Ms. Brown? Absent. Absent. Mr. De Palma?
Here.
Dr. Greenberg Belli?
Here.
Mr. Merwin?
Here.
Mr. Murphy?
Here.
Mr. Piscitty?
Here.
Mr. Rizzoli? Ms. Walker?
She can't get on.
Absent? And Council President Sowers.
Here.
This meeting is being held in conformance with the Open Public Meetings Act. Notice has been given to the newspaper of this meeting, and this meeting has been posted in public places. Next open public meeting in the council will be held on September 28th at 7:30 p.m.
Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the meeting. The first order of business will be a proclamation declaring September 2021 National Senior Center Month. Mayor?
I'm mute. Getting the hang of it now. Thank you, Council, again. Good evening, everyone. I have a proclamation I would like to read, recognizing September as Senior Citizen Month. Older Americans are significant members of our society, investing their time, their wisdom, and experience to help enrich and better the lives of younger generations. Silver Linings at Old Bridge has acted as a catalyst for mobilizing the creativity, the energy, vitality, and commitment of the older residents of Old Bridge Township. Through the wide array of services, programs, and activities, Silver Linings at Old Bridge empowers older citizens of Old Bridge Township to contribute to their own health and well-being and the health and well-being of their fellow citizens of all ages. During the pandemic, Silver Linings at Old Bridge has been a community partner in ensuring that our most vulnerable citizens, people of age 60 and older, many with underlying medical conditions, are cared for and able to stay safe and healthy. Silver Linings at Old Bridge affirms the dignity, self-worth, and independence of elder persons by facilitating their devices and audiences, tapping their experiences, skills, and knowledge, and enabling their continued contributions to our community. Now, therefore, I, Owen Henry, Mayor of the Township of Old Bridge, Township Council, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, do hereby proclaim September 2021 National Senior Citizens Month and call upon all citizens to recognize the special contributions of the Senior Center participants and the special efforts of our staff who work every day to enhance the well-being of our older citizens of our community. And with that, I would like to turn it over to Anna to say a few words. And Council, let me just say when I said, continue to contribute, as you know, this past week, we had to host a school because of unfortunate circumstances. And the most impacted department was our Silver Linings. And they were so gracious and they were so supportive of young children coming in their space, as they say, their rooms, and conducting education in person, learning in person. And I believe they came out with a list that comments that made me so proud of them, that here they are being inconvenienced, but yet they support such a younger generation from pre-K to 5th grade. So it says a lot about our senior community. So Anna, if you want to say a few words about that, the people that we love so much that are over there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Henry. I can't say enough good things about our center and about our seniors. The theme this year was kind of left up to each senior center to come up with because of how different everyone has been operating in the last 19 months. So the theme that we came up for National Senior Center Month this year was "We Are Silver Linings." I think that says it all. Strength, community, and resilience have literally gotten us through the last 19 months at the senior center, and I think through our Old Bridge community. But our seniors never cease to amaze me. We have a membership of over 2,000. Since we've reopened in July, we've signed up probably close to 50 new members. So the word, even during the pandemic, was getting out that we are out there for them. And what went on the last few days with the senior center being used as a school really reflected what the center is. And it's a heart of our community. Our members absolutely love when they get together with the children for intergenerational programming. So when this came about this past Friday, we shared that with them, that the center would be closed to them for a few days. And their reaction was not surprising to me. Maybe it was surprising to others, but it was not really surprising to me that they were completely for it. They were supportive of that decision, and they shared their welcoming words with the students of Shiraz School. So this was just another example why our older adults in our community are so important, and why it is important for us to keep providing this center and these services and programs so that our members can age in place and that they don't leave Old Bridge. We want them to stay here. We want them to retire here, and they will continue to do that if we continue to offer these programs to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Council.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Anna. You always do a wonderful, wonderful job with our seniors. Thank you so much. And Matt as well. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Next we'll have a hearing, Mass Assembly at St. Thomas for Food Truck Festival.
Hi, yeah, so we have a Mass Assembly application was received for a food truck festival to occur at St. Thomas. On the call tonight, we have Justin Connors representing for the applicant. Mr. Connors, can you please give us a brief summary of the intended event?
Sure, thank you. Thank you for letting me explain what we're trying to do. As part of our 100th anniversary celebration, our 100th existence in Old Bridge, we just wanted to have a little bit of community building at a safe outdoor event on our property, which would include several food truck vendors, a few craft vendors that will be selling jewelry, soap, and things like that. And we've even added about a dozen antique cars, a car show to the bottom end of the lot, just so that we can have and obviously pray for good weather that day, so that we can have a little bit of community building where people are able to gather outside and fraternize, enjoy a little bit of good food and community.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Connors, can you just confirm for the council that you've meeting all the requirements of our application, including the plans, your social affair permits, and compliance with all permits and regulations as required and explained to you?
Yes, ma'am. We have been continuing to do that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does any council member have a question? No? Okay, seeing no hands, then I will open it up to the public.
At this time, we will open for public comment on the Mass Assembly for St. Thomas. As shown on the screen, you can call into Zoom. Our Zoom ID is 832-8249-4684, and our passcode is 321047. Once you are in our Zoom webinar, you can press *9 from your phone, Option or Alt-Y from your Mac or PC, or the raise hand option on your phone or computer app to raise your hand and indicate that you would like to make a public comment. Council, I have no raised hands for public comment on this matter.
Okay, so then seeing no raised hands, we'll close the public portion. And now I will ask for a motion.
Move it.
Second,
Okay, moved by Councilman Rizzoli, second by Councilman De Palma.
Okay. Ms. Brown is absent. Mr. De Palma,
here. Yeah, yes, sorry.
Dr. Greenberg Ballet,
Yes.
Mr. Merwin.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Murphy.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Piscitty,
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli. Is absent. Dias. I don't see him on his screen. Ms. Walker,
Yes.
President Sohor.
Yes.
We have
Mr.
that-
Rizzoli said yes, his screen froze, just so you know.
Well, we have-
I have to hear his. vote.
Okay, here, come here.
Hi, Gary, it's Mark. I vote yes.
Thank you. Okay, so we have 8 ayes and 1 absent.
Call Mike, tell him to check their connections.
Mr. Connors, thank you very much.
Yes.
You'll be hearing from us regarding the approvals.
Thank you kindly.
Okay, have a good evening.
one.
Thank you.
Likewise.
Okay, next will be presentations, offshore wind transmission project presentation.
Council, we have Michael Herbert, Eric Stevens, who will be presenting, and I will be promoting our engineer, Nicole Shapiro, and Vina for additional questions. Wait, where'd Nicole go? I got it. Okay.
Note that. Read that.
Eric.
Hi, Eric Stevens is here.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Hello.
And I just promoted Mike. I'm sorry, I missed his clicking.
Good evening, board. Good evening, council members. Michael Herbert to Parker McKay.
Good evening.
Good evening. Shall we proceed?
Absolutely. You also have the right to share screen if you need to.
Okay, I'm going to give that honor to Mr. Stevens, who's with us today.
To check.
Council
evening,
President, before Michael does a presentation, I just want to brief council. About 2 weeks back, Mr. Herbert had reached out to the administration, and we had Nicole, myself, Rena, we had received a presentation. He made a presentation to us about this project. Now, I just want to alert the council, this particular project, the purpose of mine to put this on agenda so that the council gets the understanding of what's going on with this. This project has been approved by the federal government on offshore windmill project. And also the state BPU has already approved the plan and the concept. So what I want to do is through this presentation, and when we saw the presentation, that it provided some understanding to us. I wanted to make sure you have the same information that we received, and then you can make a judgment. We did send you via email a resolution that somewhat generic. There's about 6 companies vying for this particular bid award by the BPU. And so we're not, right now, we're not in position to recommend, but we like the idea, the way that this company had presented to us and where they're gonna do the work was important for you to see because it has a list disruption if that's the way it's gonna go. Now, other companies will do something same, different, we don't know that. So this information just came about 2 weeks back, and Their bid is due, Mike, about 17th, right?
It is due Friday, but we need to have the package assembled by tomorrow, if at all possible.
So we wanted to make sure that a council hears, sees the presentation, so you get the concept of this project that for whatever reason, we haven't heard from any agency, never, came to light to us. And so this is a good way for you to look at it. And then if you do choose, a copy of resolution Gabriella had sent to you was prepared by Mark late today. And then you can take the vote on the resolution if you choose to approve that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shah. I really appreciate your introduction. As the attorney for Atlantic Power Transmission LLC, I can tell the council members and the mayor that we have an exciting project. And it'll be explained in depth by my expert, Mr. Eric Stevens. But just as an overall 30,000-foot look at this matter, we are looking to bring a transmission line in from the offshore wind farms. And those offshore wind farms are being built by a separate company. They're over 3 miles out. They'll be beyond the horizon, so they will not be marring the your beachscape. But the windmills will be creating power out there, and we need to transport it into a switching station in South Brunswick. Our company came up with what I believe is a really good idea to bring the line, and it's DC current, not AC current. You may have heard of AC current being the overhead power lines that some people believe cause radiation. This is DC current, no radiation. It's buried underground about 8 feet. So what we will do is we will run it into the Raritan Bay. We're coming ashore in a redevelopment area in South Amboy. When we come ashore there, we will then hook into the Conrail right-of-way, which comes down from that peninsula. And it will, by the way, South Amboy has already given a letter of support for this project. In fact, they've given 2 letters of support, which I have supplied to council and to your engineer. It then comes into Sayreville. Sayreville has issued a letter of support, which I will be sending to your council soon. But Sayreville is now supporting the project coming down through the Conrail right-of-way. The next town that is part of the Conrail right-of-way is Old Bridge Township, as many of you know, and we'll show you on the maps in a minute or two. But the Conrail right-of-way skirts along your border with East Brunswick and with Sayreville. And we will run the lines along that right-of-way, not affecting any roads except for where the rails cross the roads, not affecting any houses either. It'll then go into East Brunswick, then Spotswood, Helmetta, Monroe, and then into South Brunswick. And we have support from all of those towns for this project, along with Middlesex County. I forward some of those letters already to your council, and I'll be forwarding the others as they come in. The line will go down the rail tracks, hook into a PSE&G right-of-way in Monroe. It will then go over on the PSE&G right-of-way to the switching station in South Brunswick, the Dean switching station. We've acquired property at that station to convert it back over and switch it into the switching station there. So I can represent to you that we will be paying a fee to each town. We have a formula for doing that, for using the town's right-of-ways. I believe Old Bridge is around a little over $600,000. You can also expect, and again, you'd have to consult your tax specialist, but there will be a substantial tax payment on a quarterly basis for the lines as well. So the town will realize a substantial amount of funds from this project. We're calling this the Clean Energy Corridor coming down from South Amboy, and this is really a clean rateable for Old Bridge. With that, I'd like to present Mr. Eric Stevens, who is with us. Mr. Stevens, good evening. If you can let everyone know who you are and make your presentation.
Great. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, President Sohor and members of the council. Appreciate your time this evening. My name is Eric Stevens. I'm the Chief Development Officer for Atlantic Power Transmission. And I do have a brief presentation. I trust you all can see that. What we were hoping to do tonight is give you an overview of what our current plans are. We have a long process ahead of us of some years before we actually go to construction, and the plans will no doubt be modified as we go, in particular from input from the communities as we meet with them and develop our plans and get more detail to them. But what I'll show you tonight is where things stand now and how we're moving forward, and do appreciate getting any input. And I'll also explain a little bit more about the solicitation that's underway right now by the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities. First, a little bit about our company. Atlantic Power Transmission is a project portfolio company of Blackstone Infrastructure Partners. So Blackstone is a large infrastructure investment company, part of the Blackstone Group out of New York City. And Blackstone Infrastructure Partners invests in early stage infrastructure of all sorts, energy and transportation, does a lot of public-private partnerships around the world. And in terms of similar projects, has done onshore transmission projects in New York State, and has done offshore wind projects in Europe. So I'm the Chief Development Officer, as I mentioned. A lot of the Blackstone senior management are also management of APT, the project company. And I was also Chief Development Officer for the Vineyard Wind project that recently received its permits there. And that project, if I do say so myself, had a lot of public support because we purposely did a lot of early outreach to towns out on Cape Cod, similar to what we're doing tonight. And my goal in this is to take that same spirit and really develop partnerships with communities along the route of our cable, because hopefully it'll be a long-term beneficial relationship for everybody involved. So as Mike indicated, we're responding to a challenge that the governor and the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities has of bringing 7,500 megawatts of offshore wind into the New Jersey power grid. This map that you see here, the green areas are offshore wind lease areas issued by the Federal Bureau of Ocean Energy Management. The green ones are new ones. The brown ones are lease areas that were auctioned off a couple years ago, and you might have heard some news about some companies that have already been awarded contracts to bring the power from those projects to shore and to build the wind turbines themselves. So what the Board of Utilities has done is, because this is it's an amazing amount of generation capacity off the coast of New Jersey. It's the equivalent of 10 nuclear plants, say. So the challenge is, how do you get all that power to shore? And so what the New Jersey BPU has done is created an RFP, a solicitation, asking companies like ourselves to compete with each other and to come up with plans to bring that power to shore. And that RFP closes on Friday, and we'll be submitting a bid in which we'll be proposing to develop a project along the lines of what I'm going to be describing to you here. So what our project proposal entails is to build submarine cables using high voltage direct current. So it's a very compact, efficient type of transmission line, and to actually build two and up to 3 lines coming from these lease areas that I mentioned where the wind turbines will be, and bring them along the Jersey Shore and around Sandy Hook and into Raritan Bay. And from there, I'll show you in a second, they go to South Amboy and then take the rail line route to South Brunswick. So that's the overall purpose of why we're here is to meet this New Jersey policy of achieving 7,500 megawatts of offshore wind, which is it's a large amount of energy. I think it's going to be about half the energy of the state when it's all built out. So this map picks up with South Amboy at the top of Raritan Bay. So where that line showed you on the other map, the line would come up to South Amboy, and would come ashore at a old pier that used to be actually where the trains would bring coal, and where ferry passengers would get on the train line going down to the Philadelphia area. So it's an old abandoned pier that's being slated. It has been slated for redevelopment, and actually there's a lot of redevelopment going on just literally next door to this pier. And part of what I think is fair to say, part of why South Amboy is excited about this project is because our cable landing would actually be totally compatible with their redevelopment plans, because it would be, as Michael said, be totally out of sight. The cable is going to be buried the entire way onshore, and so they would have this revenue source from having the cable going through their town, but yet not impacting their redevelopment plans. So after it makes that cable landing at South Amboy, it crosses a public road, and then it gets into the rail corridor. You can see it here, how it kind of makes a big swooping turn the way rail lines do, and comes down through Sayreville, and then about halfway through the way to, or just as it leaves Sayreville, it enters into Old Bridge Township, and it literally skirts the border with between Old Bridge and Sayreville. From what I can tell, the rail line, the road there, Bordentown Avenue, is pretty much right along the border. So that the rail track is probably, it must be some tens of feet away from the border, just inside of with Old Bridge. So it follows along here for about 2.5 miles. I'm sure you're all familiar with it and have seen it. And then it goes, as Michael's described, in through the other towns along the route. Of note, Old Bridge is in a unique and I would say favorable situation. This route is going through sort of the downtown part of South Amboy. It is entirely buried, and then it goes through Sayreville. When it comes through Spotswood and Helmetta, it's shorter distances, but it is going through sort of the more main parts of their villages. Old Bridge is unique in that it's literally skirting the border there. And then once we get down to the Helmetta area, the route will take a number of different options. You can see them here in blue. We've actually gotten more specific in our planning at this point. This is an early map showing all the different options we were considering. And so at this point, the plan is to either take the roads through East Brunswick and South Brunswick to this location here, which is where the converter station will be. And then connect to the existing substation. It's called Dean Substation in South Brunswick. An alternative plan is to actually use an existing right-of-way. There's an overhead power line right-of-way, which is what this red line is. And our power lines will be buried, but nonetheless, we could bury it underneath or at least alongside the right-of-way of this existing power line, which would avoid the almost use of all roads for the entire route, really. From South Amboy all the way to Dean Substation, if we can work that out to put it along the existing right of way. So as Michael said, I think we have what we think is a sort of a remarkable situation where we're able to bring this power cable, 3,600 megawatts, it'll be three circuits or transmission lines of 1,200 each, so totaling 3,600 megawatts. It's about 13 miles from South Amboy to the Helmetta region, and another 3 or 4 miles, depending on which route you take, to the converter station. So something like 16, 17 miles with virtually no impacts on any roads. Really the only impacts would be if we do have to use this road route or where the rail line crosses the roads. So obviously there'd be crossing over the road perpendicular, not parallel in the road in those cases. So we think it's a pretty remarkable situation. We've been able to find a way to bring this amount of power this distance all the way out from the Atlantic Ocean with such little community impact. And our challenge now is to convince the Board of Public Utilities, who will be evaluating the different proposals, that it is a good proposal. Obviously, the cost to New Jersey ratepayers is a consideration they're going to be looking at very closely, and we're, our financial people at Blackstone are sharpening their pencils and working late at night to get the lowest price possible. But another consideration that the Board of Public Utilities will be considering is things like environmental impacts and impacts of local communities. And in our proposal, we're bringing three power lines in the space of one, along one shared route. Our route is along existing infrastructure the entire way, and there's no impacts or very small impacts in any of the community roads. So we think it has a lot going for it. We need to convince the BPU of that. One way we can do that is to show that we in fact have support from local communities, from the communities along the route. So if we're able to provide with them letters of support, resolutions of support, that will make that will demonstrate that that support from local communities. And so to be so our plan, and to be all upfront, is to say, and with these towns that we're meeting with, if you're able to give us your support at this stage, we understand it's a relatively early stage, but here's what we know at this point. And if you're able to give us your support at this stage, we will we will commit to making these community payments that Michael indicated. So a little bit more about the proposal. I think I've hit on all these things, but just to make sure to summarize, as I said, it was up to 3 cable circuits, 3,600 megawatts. We hope to do this entirely in partnerships with all the local communities along the route. It uses existing infrastructure. By the way, this is a picture of that pier in South Amboy. This was taken earlier this summer. You can see it's in a state of redevelopment. And so our cable will be coming up in this point off here. And then this section over here on the left of the picture would be redeveloped into a ferry terminal. So it's really kind of an exciting thing of how we're going to have this cable, or 3 cables coming ashore for 3,600 megawatts. And meanwhile, there's a ferry terminal and there'll be a bike path and so on. It's going to be a really exciting development when it's done. It's going to be entirely 100% buried. So the only structures above ground will actually be in South Brunswick, where we have the converter station, and that's going to be right next to their existing substation. It's extremely safe because it is buried. There's no EMF concerns. The cable itself is a solid material. It's actually made out of a material similar to PEX, the plastic plumbing pipe that you might be familiar with that you get at Home Depot. It's pretty much the exact same thing that's used to encase the cable. And then that cable goes inside a heavy concrete duct bank, and basically a big concrete block to protect it in case anybody were ever digging in there or anything like that. And when it's all done, it'll provide enough power for over 1.5 million homes for New Jersey. Yeah, so I think I've hit on all these things as well. This is a picture of the substation, an aerial view of the substation. As I said, it's an existing substation. You can see where there's already been clearing for the power lines, the overhead power lines coming into it. And so I mentioned that our one of our route options is to bury our power line right inside that cleared area. So since it's been cleared already, and since it has an existing disturbance from when they installed that overhead line, really the incremental environmental impact will be pretty negligible. So we think that's a great way to go and stay out of all the public roads altogether for the most part. So so that's the presentation I had, Michael. I don't know if I'd be happy to take questions or.
No, thank you, Eric. Council President, Mayor, council members, Attorney Mr. Rosselli, Mr. Stevens and I are available for any questions you may have. I would just point out as well that in the Old Bridge master plan, there is an effort to promote green energy, and I think that's what is going on here. We had, as Mr. Shaw said, we had a very good meeting with the township personnel, with both Ms. Shapiro and the planner, as well as Mr. Shaw, to go over this matter. And as Mr. Stevens said, I think this is a really exciting opportunity for Old Bridge and for the state of New Jersey to have a new source of power, a clean source of power, and a source of power that does not have a negative impact upon Old Bridge Township. In fact, it has a positive impact financially and really will not affect the town at all because we're in the railroad tracks. I can tell you that our competitors have other routes in mind coming in from Keyport and elsewhere that would use roads for entry into the South Brunswick switching station. Ours is unique in that it uses the rail line through the redevelopment of South Amboy coming down. And that's why we have support from both the county and all the other towns along the route. So with that, again, we're here for any questions you may have.
Does any of the council have questions?
Yeah, I do.
Mr. Merwin?
Yes. Mr. Herbert, and Mr. Stevens, how do you plan on how will you get the lines through the Raritan Bay?
Mr. Stevens?
Yeah, they'll be buried in the bay as well. It's the installation is done using specialized vessels that have large spools of the cable on the vessel, on the boat, and then there's a special gantry mechanism that unspools the cable, and the cable goes down off the back of the boat into the water. And then there's it's called a jet plow. Basically, it takes the cable from the boat up above, lays it down on the sea floor, and uses a jet of water to create a trench about 4 feet deep. It's actually it turns it into a sort of a mud trench for a few minutes, basically liquefying the seafloor from the blast of water. And the weight of the cable that falls into that trench, and then as that plow continues to move forward along the route, the seafloor sediment settles back in as the plow moves away, and there's basically no disturbance to the seafloor except for the immediate area, maybe 2 or 3 feet wide of the trench. So it's a very low impact installation. It actually goes fairly quickly. It's also a pretty mature means of technology at this point. It's done all over the world for offshore wind projects. And in fact, actually, New Jersey was one of the first states to have this kind of HVDC technology installed in its waters. There's a project called Neptune that goes from Sayreville over to Long Island. And they use a similar kind of technique to install the cable in Raritan Bay. And our proposed route through Raritan Bay would actually go parallel to that cable. And that's another thing I didn't mention earlier, is that our routes offshore will similarly be alongside existing infrastructure. So there's that power cable I mentioned. There's also a gas pipeline there, and then there's the channel itself, which is dredged. And our strategy in planning the cable route offshore is to go alongside all this existing infrastructure that's already there, again, with the idea of minimizing any environmental impacts by keeping a small footprint of the work that's done offshore.
You mentioned the gas pipeline. I was a big opponent of the gas pipeline for the specific reason of undoing all that sediment that has been laying there for 50, 60 years and coming in and moving that. And it's still a concern.
Yeah. This is the cable bundle that's installed. So I mentioned there's 3 circuits of 1,200 megawatts each. Each circuit is made up of 2 cables. And then there's also a fiber optic cable for the communication throughout the system. And when it's installed offshore, what they do is they bundle those two power cables and the fiber optic cable together and wrap it with a protective cover as it's being installed on the vessel. So what's actually installed at the seafloor, it ends up only being about 1 foot diameter with those two power cables and the fiber optic cable. So it's a really narrow footprint. Nothing like what I'm sure was involved in installing a gas pipeline. It does disturb the sediment in the immediate area of where the cable goes, but that's really the only area for when it's installed.
I mean, that's my only concern. I mean, it's a great project. It's renewable energy, and it's the way of the future. Is just, I had my stance with the gas company, and I'm still very concerned, even with that minimal 1 foot disturbance. It's historically a lot of pollutants that are just laying in that 1 foot too. But I mean, I guess that's things you guys are going to have to address.
Yes, and we'll be doing a full environmental impact statement. This is a federally permitted project, so we'll have a long permitting process to go through, and part of that will be exactly looking at that concern that you have, Mr. Merwin, and looking at doing samples actually to make sure there's no sort of hot spots along the route. Identifying known hotspots. There is a Superfund site nearby that we're familiar with. It's well out of the way of the route, but we're doing our homework and making sure we're avoiding those kind of.
And who you're dealing with, FERC?
The permitting, the environmental permitting, is done with the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management.
Okay, so they never even have that. All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I believe Mr. Pischetti, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a couple questions. I like the project. I like that the environmental impact is minimal, and you're really only coming a little bit into Old Bridge there. You mentioned a $600,000 number. What can you expound on that a little bit?
Sure. When we enter a town, much like a cable company, remember when the cable companies were bringing in their cables years ago, when you enter into a town, there is an upfront payment for any disturbance that's done in the town, and that for here, it would be in excess of $600,000. There's a certain formula we use for it.
So it's a one-shot payment.
It's a one-shot payment, but then we then make a quarterly payment every year of a couple $100,000 for for this stretch of area that's in Old Bridge. We pay essentially we pay taxes back to you.
And what are you estimating that to be?
We are unsure as of right now, but it could be in excess of $1 million a year.
Wow. Okay.
Council member, I just want to alert you that these are all negotiable numbers. I think this is their initial estimate. So if any
that is correct,
is going to go to the town, they will have to pay host community benefit. And one of the things, Mike, I ask you specifically, because the state in that infinite wisdom has laid into every host community franchise grocery seat benefit away from the township,
they have
under the name of collecting them and redistributing on under that. And this one, you specifically said that this negotiation will be between the township and the company, and it's a direct payment township. It's not going to the state.
That is correct. I represent many towns myself. I represent many outraged mayors over that money being taken by the state. So, Mr. Shaw, I hear you loud and clear. Here, that is not a part of the equation. It is between Atlantic Power and the town. And also, the state has an interest in not involving themselves in taking this money because they want to promote clean energy and they want these lines to be the most efficient lines and the lines that will have the best impact upon the host communities.
Okay, can I ask another question, please?
Please.
The windmills that are going to be out in the water there. I've noticed personally that up in Maine and up in that area, there's a lot of these windmill farms, and a lot of them are stopped and they're not maintained, I guess. What would be the scenario if over 10 years these windmills stop and we have this infrastructure in place, and you guys are not generating power, so how are you going to pay us the taxes? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so just to clarify, we're not actually going to be building or operating the actual wind turbines. That will be for the people who own the lease areas here. And it's not known yet who they are because these are auctioned off by the federal government, these lease areas to the wind turbine developers.
Okay.
So our role is to provide the transmission line for the power coming from those wind turbines. But your question is germane. But I just want to clarify, we're not the ones with the actual wind turbines. So a few things. One is when the wind turbine developers get their permits to build the turbines, they have to demonstrate that they are reliable for the period that they've indicated. Typically it's on the order of 20-25 years, and they have to post bonds to make sure that they can be removed if they're not operating. They have to file a decommissioning plan. So the federal government is very attentive to this. Actually, BOEM, the agency that's managing this, is the same folks who do the offshore oil and gas. Needless to say, they have a lot of lessons learned about folks maintaining their structures, and so they're very rigorous about that for the wind turbines as well. And then another layer of protection on that is the investment to build those wind turbines in the first place is enormous. And the people who made that investment only get paid when they actually generate electricity. That's how the contracts are structured with the state, is that they only get paid if they generate. So they have every incentive to keep those turbines working, even if they don't end up making much money in the end, because it's better than losing money. And so between those two things, it's I think we can take a lot of comfort that they'll be kept generating. And like I said, our cables will be coming out to this general area here, and then there'd be specific cables coming to our cable area to go to shore. So to continue answering your question, sort of a worst case scenario, if one of these lease areas, for whatever reason, if all their turbines failed, there would be these other lease areas out here that would need transmission as well. And so it's conceivable, it's not the plan, but it's conceivable that because we'd have this infrastructure here, that we could, instead of serving the first location, we could serve alternate locations.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for that answer. I have one more question for you, Mr. Stevens. At the substation level, if for whatever reason, let's say the wind stops blowing and there's no generation of turbine, kilowatts, is there a switch over at the substation? Would it switch over to what we're using today?
Yes, is the short answer. It's these cables are connected electrically at two points. One is the turbines themselves offshore, And then they don't make connection to the grid until you get all the way back to the Dean substation in South Brunswick.
Right.
So, and when they do make this connection into the substation, they are connecting really in the backbone of New Jersey's power grid. This is a 500 kV. This is the highest voltage power line in New Jersey. And you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 different power lines coming into this one substation. And so our system would be, 3 more power lines providing power into that substation. So you could think of this substation as sort of a pool with sources coming in from our wind turbines, and then power going out to the cities and towns, but as well power coming in from other generation sources. So it's all sort of managed here at this substation by the system operator. It's an organization called PJM, and their job is 24/7 to be watching, to be balancing the amount of power needed in the state and the region with the amount of power being generated. And so what will happen is if the wind goes down, then automatically PJM will direct other generators to generate more to make up for that outage. And the idea is that when the wind turbines are generating, that's sort of given first provider status, I guess you could say. So when the clean energy is being generated, the dirty sources, the coal and gas now is actually considered a dirty source because there's so many clean sources available now. So the dirty sources are actually turned down so that we use the most of the clean energy that's available.
I always thought gas was a clean energy.
Yeah, it's
Liquid gas,
we-
right? Liquid.
we've passed the point. It used to be actually, but we've passed the point because now there's so much wind on the grid where adding more gas generation would actually increase the amount of pollution per megawatt hour. So now if we want to keep getting cleaner energy, we have to really just do the zero emission sources.
Like nuclear. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Sorry, Mr.
Wait.
Murphy.
Mr. Murphy?
I'm so sorry.
Mr. Murphy?
Mr. Murphy, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, you may have said this under Mr. Merwin's question, but where and how are they crossing the river?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mr. Stevens.
Yeah, I'm sorry I don't have a better map of the bay itself, and we can get that to you. But they don't actually, the cables wouldn't actually go into the river itself. They're really staying more in the bay, sort of at the mouth of the river, I guess you'd say. So they come in from the ocean, going around Sandy Hook, and then sort of paralleling the shipping channel that goes through the center of Raritan Bay. And then this is the top of the bay here. This gray area here is water. And this is the pier in South Amboy. You can see where that little yellow line sort of goes off.
Yes. Where will it will it be sitting in the water?
It'll be buried in the seafloor from this point here all the way out to the wind turbine location. So it's actually buried in the seafloor.
How deep?
About 4 feet.
Right, because we've had some water main breaks at about that level sometimes with the boats. Is that going to be a problem?
No. I'm sorry. So you've had problems with boat anchors, I guess, or?
No, just the boats, sailboats and stuff breaking the water line.
Really? Okay. That's good information to know. But but when we bury them, we actually have video cameras and other sensing equipment to make sure that we're really getting down to the full 4 feet. If we need to, we come back and rebury them. In some rare cases, there's like a really hard sediment you can't bury, in which case we might.
Yes, I understand that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
A question.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Any other council person have a question?
Yes, I do.
Okay, Dr. Greenberg.
So this runs along the western portion of Old Bridge, and it runs along the track, and that shows no disturbance to anything in the community at all, just this perimeter. Is that
Right.
true?
Yep. It enters the rail corridor in this area here, and then in Old Bridge, and then the rail track pretty much parallels exactly the border. So there are some roads that cross over the track along here.
Mhm.
So the cables would have to go under those roads. But other than that, it would not be in the roads of Old Bridge.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other council person have a question?
Council President, I do have one.
Okay, Mr.
Yes, just looking at the map, and I do support clean energy. I think it's great that we're looking at new energies. But could you explain the blue line? So we have it coming in through South Amboy, and then it seems to kind of split off, right? Is that a potential variation of the power lines being, or is it a secondary lines that's going?
This line here.
Yes, the blue line. So there's two, the two that are coming in. Yeah, right there.
Yeah. This is actually a very early map. This is actually another Conrail line, actually, this line here. It's another rail line that goes all the way to Milltown. And so at an early stage, we were looking at using this rail line instead. And then this long line here is road. And part of the reason we decided not to use this particular rail line and use this one here instead is because this line here, as I said, it's all road. So it'd be a long way of going through East of Brunswick with a power line in the road, versus the route that we've decided to focus on. It stays in the rail line until you get to within 3 or 4 miles of where we need to go at the converter station. So it's a much less amount of road impact if we do have to use the road. And we also have this option, which is what we're hoping actually, is to stay out of the roads altogether for the most part. There's a warehouse section here where Route 95 is. We might have to use a few hundred feet of the road. Other than that, if we're able to use this right of way, we wouldn't be in any town's roads at all.
Okay. So more or less, the proposed line and the favorable line for you right now is the yellow.
The yellow and this reddish.
The yellow and then up to the red. Okay.
And even if we if we couldn't use this red line, then we would use one of these other blue lines, which it isn't roads obviously through these several towns, but they're fairly rural roads. They some of them don't even have any homes on them at all.
Excellent. Thank you.
Any other council person?
Mayor, I guess I just got a follow-up question to his thing.
Okay,
Yes, Eric, what do you propose at Bordentown Avenue at the S-turns where the railroad is above the roadway? Are you gonna come up and go over with along the bridge, or are you gonna dig down below the bridge?
Yeah, in those instances, we'll probably use something that's called horizontal directional drilling. It's basically a boring method where you drill down, and then you can actually steer the drill bit and steer it to the direction of where you want to go underneath the bridge. We'll probably use the same method for the waterways go underneath them entirely.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Any other council person? No, any of our professionals have a question?
Council President, I think Mike or Stephen, you can help. This is about 6 to 8 years from now, actually, or something. I remember the years before it would actually we'll see this project moving forward or something. Can you explain that?
Yes, it is. So the deadline for the proposals is this Friday. So that's why we're here with you tonight. I know it might seem odd that we're here 6 to 8 years before we might actually go to construction, but the deadline for the solicitation is Friday. So we're hoping to demonstrate support from communities along the route in that submission on Friday. But then once the BPU receives all the different proposals, we anticipate it'll take 6 months, maybe even a year, for them to make a decision, because it's a big decision for the state of New Jersey, and we're sure they're going to want to spend the time to really analyze and study and have all their questions answered. And then once they make that selection, then we have approximately 3-4 year design and permitting phase. And then it actually takes about 4 to 5 years to fabricate and install the equipment, because it's highly specialized. It's all custom ordered, and there's really only 2 or 3 factories in the world that can make this kind of equipment. So when you add it all up, it is something on the order of as many as 8 years from now, if not a little more.
Council President, I think Mark can give you
I have a couple questions
background on the resolution.
No, I have a couple questions.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr.
Thank you. So, Mr. Stevens, who establishes the 4-foot depth on the offshore cable line?
Well, we propose it to the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management. You're talking about the offshore segment?
So I said offshore.
Yeah. Yeah. So we propose that to the regulators. And
So what have you used? You said you've been involved in other projects. What have you used with these other projects? What's the depth offshore?
It was 4 feet.
And why 4 feet? Doesn't it seem a little close to the surface, especially given the activity that goes on in this area of the Raritan?
No, we think it's the right depth, and the reason is, if you think about what are the impacts that could impact something 4 feet under the seafloor, it comes down to 2 things. One is a ship actually running ashore, or a ship anchor, and the depth that they'll be able to get into the seafloor is a function of how big and heavy they are. And that in turn is a function of how deep the water is where you are. And Raritan Bay, and of course the water depth. If you're in really deep water, you're not going to hit the seafloor at all.
Unless you're the Titanic.
What's that?
Unless you're the Titanic.
Right. And then but then if you're in shallow water like the Raritan Bay, it's very shallow relative to the size of the vessels.
Right.
And they would be run aground far before they'd ever get near our cable.
Is there any dredging activity that goes on in that part of the Raritan where you're proposing to put your cable?
There is in the channels, in the federal maintained shipping channels, and in those areas we actually have to go deeper. And that's basically the Army Corps of Engineers who's responsible for maintaining those channels.
You better get that in writing, because we know the Army Corps not to keep the word in certain projects in Old Bridge, but that's another story.
Okay. Right. So to answer your question, there is dredging in the channels, and we will have to go deeper in those channels to make sure that they can continue dredging without getting within that 4 feet of distance.
What's the depth in the channels? Do you know?
At the moment, I do not. I do not. I personally don't. I'm sure our engineers do.
How about with respect to onshore? What's the depth of the cable while it's onshore?
So as I mentioned, it's encased in a concrete block that's approximately 2 feet by 4 feet. and the top of that concrete block is about 2 feet underground.
So basically total 4 feet from top to the bottom of the block, correct?
Sorry, 2 feet from the top of the ground to the top of the block,
Right.
and then another foot or so of concrete, basically.
Right, so basically it's sitting approximately 3 to maybe 4 feet.
Exactly. Of which a foot is approximately is concrete. Solid
Right, and
concrete.
who establishes that depth?
In the railway, it'll probably be Conrail, the owners of the railway.
So you don't know that to be a fact, then you don't know that you're proposing that to be the depth, but you don't know the actual depth.
That's right. All these are design proposals that need to be approved by the regulators.
And as far as utilizing the Conrail right of way, are there any active trains utilizing any of those rail lines?
Yes, infrequently. We're told a couple trains a day.
So is the proposal to actually use where the tracks are, or will it be adjacent to the tracks? Where will they be located?
Adjacent to the tracks, running parallel to the tracks. And Conrail has very specific specifications for how close to the tracks we can go with our trenching and installation.
Because we've known to have train accidents, right?
I'm sorry?
We've known that there are train accidents, correct?
In general, yes. Yeah,
Right.
I'm not familiar with any specifically here, if that's what
Well,
you're
I'm
asking.
just saying, so as part of your encasement, how thick is the encasement?
It's a block about 2 feet by 4 feet.
That's diameter, but what's the thickness of the actual encasement itself?
Be about a foot.
A foot, because I think you said that the cables coming through, do they measure about a foot in some circumference?
At this point, the cables are separated out into the two particular cables. The foot and circumference that I mentioned was when they're bundled together for the offshore installation.
Okay.
So in the duct banks, they're actually only about 4 inches diameter.
So what, so the is it just regular concrete? Is it rebar reinforced concrete? Do you know what the encasing, what it's, the material's made of?
It typically is not rebar enforced. It's a special concrete called thermal backfill concrete. It's specifically designed for these kind of installations.
Same thing that they use for gas lines, it seems.
I'm sorry?
They use similar backfill for gas lines, I think.
Yeah, I'm not familiar, sorry, with the gas lines.
So have you used this type of encasement in other projects?
Yes, it's used quite frequently.
Has your company used it?
So Atlantic Power Transmission is a project company.
Right. So how about Blackstone and their other projects that they've invested in?
Right. Yeah. So Blackstone has another project company called Transmission Development Incorporated, and they are proposing to build a similar line to this to come all the way down from Canada to New York City. It's not built yet, to answer your question, but it has been fully permitted to be installed using pretty much the exact same techniques as this. And then
go ahead. I'm sorry.
And then there's the Neptune project that I mentioned earlier. I'm not sure the exact distance. I believe it's about 20 miles in the roads of Long Island that uses this exact same technique.
And are they using this similar encasement that you referenced for this project?
Yes, that's my understanding. Yes.
Now there was discussion about the windmills themselves. That's not something you're doing, but I guess you had indicated that those are, I guess, the functionality of those are inspected by a particular federal agency?
U.S. Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, and it's underneath the Department of Interior.
They're not the same ones who were responsible for the windmills down in Houston, were they? The ones that froze?
No, those are all on private land, so they were not regulated by this agency.
Now, with respect to the Conrail right-of-way, I take it, is that a negotiated price, or do you have to do condemnation?
No, we would not. We don't have the power of condemnation.
The state does. I wasn't sure if the state would get involved in that.
It's certainly not our expectation that they would. We're fully anticipating to enter into a right-of-way agreement and easement with Conrail. They actually do that kind of thing routinely with communications lines. I'm told they actually have some overhead power lines in their right-of-way already. These kind of linear infrastructure in their rail corridor is something they're pretty used to, actually.
And then I take it, do you have to compensate them for utilization of the right of way?
That's right.
You had mentioned earlier with respect to your folks sharpening their pencils with the BPU, is there going to be a cost to the ratepayers of New Jersey for the development of this line?
Yes. So
do you know what that cost is?
No, I don't.
But I would imagine it's going to be pretty significant, right? So the ratepayers in New Jersey, in effect, are paying for the installation of this infrastructure.
In terms of the total cost of the installation, it's, again, I don't know the exact number. That's what the finance folks are figuring out right now, but it is on the order of billions of dollars of investment. Yes.
So I just so the record's clear, right? I don't make it seem as if you're doing this because, hey, you're paying for it, but the ratepayers for these types of projects, they're responsible for the cost, and it gets spread over ratepayers, the cost of this project.
Just as it does every other power plant and transmission line.
So again, just so people are clear and the council's clear, well, people talk about, quote unquote, green energy. There's a cost to green energy. Is your firm receive any type of tax subsidies or incentives from the government for doing these types of projects?
We are not planning on, no. I mean, it is something that we'd be looking into, but there is no, to our understanding from our lawyers, there is no federal tax incentives for this kind of transmission project.
So then how is it that Atlantic Power Transmission will generate revenue for the project?
So when the Board of Public Utilities selects a project, whether it's us or any other, what's awarded is an agreement that the ratepayers of New Jersey will pay for that project over a period of 35, 40 years or whatever it might be specified. So it's really honestly no different than the transmission lines that you see all over the state right now. It's just that they were built 30, 50, 75 years ago, and when that investment was made. And so this is a new investment that will likewise be paid over a long time.
Well, it might be a little different because this might be costlier given what's involved.
I don't know that. I guess we'll see in the competition.
Now, I don't know if you can answer this or Mike has to answer it. The host community payment, is that something that's required as part of the solicitation by the BPU?
It is not required.
And so what's the authority by which that Atlantic Power can offer a host community benefit to municipalities? Is there a legal authority for that?
The legal authority, and the attorneys did the research on this, is the same that you would have for, as I told you before, cable TV, cables, things like that. There's a host community payment that is made as part of those projects as well.
Well, I guess I understand that, but there's also state legislation authorizing that. How about with respect to this? Is there state legislation authorizing it? The payment of the host community benefit?
As far as I know, no.
So is there a possibility that at some point someone could challenge that and then the town would have to either give up the payment or the agreement can be rescinded? What guarantee does the township have if they were to enter into a host community benefit agreement that would be binding?
It would be part of the NJBPU order and agreement.
So what you're telling us then, Atlantic Power, as part of its submission, is going to advise the BPU that it intends to make a payment to the host communities, correct?
That is part of our proposal, yes.
So in essence, then the rest of the ratepayers will be paying for the host community benefit, including those in Oldham.
Well, you are getting the payment, and if you want to, again, make that argument, anyone can make that type of argument.
Well, it's not an
Mr.
argument,
Roselli,
like,
but
I'm just,
it is,
I just
it
want to
is,
disclose the facts. I mean, because really, the project is being paid by the ratepayers. So the cost that that's involved, BPU approves it. So, I just want to make sure it's clear. It's not like Atlantic Power's, while initially there may be fronting the money, they're recouping it through the ratepayer.
and as Mr. Stevens said very clearly, any power line that you run throughout the state, the ratepayers pay for it. But
I am
those-
making the point where you're not doing it out of the kindness of your heart. There's a cost to it, and the cost is to the taxpayers.
It is an infrastructure project. This is the way infrastructure projects are done.
Okay. So with respect to Mike, you had indicated that the town could somehow collect some type of revenue from the line itself being in the township. What's the legal authority that would allow the township to do such an assessment?
As far as taxes go, I could get you the information on that, but there's certain codes that require the payment.
So,
if I could add, we've had Deloitte spending a lot of time, the accounting firm, looking at this question to confirm that, and their indication is that there isn't a lot of precedent, because the
let me ask you this. So
public utilities aren't taxed, but
public utilities are not public. So
Mr. Rosselli, if you could allow Mr. Stevens to finish his sentences, I really would appreciate it.
Again, excuse me.
Mr. Rosselli, Mr. Stevens was answering the question.
Gabby, could you please mute Mr. Herbert? So again, Mr. Stevens, this I want to question, to the extent that these are, Deloitte's provide an opinion, there's no real authority. Is Atlantic Power willing to guarantee that payment in the event that some legal authority or some entity says that they're not permitted?
Not at this time. It's, if that's the kind of issue we'd be glad to take up in the host community agreement.
Now, you had also indicated as part of your proposal, Mr. Stevens, that the other competitors were designing routes using other roadways. Is that correct?
That's our understanding. Yes. Yep.
Do you know that to be a fact? Have you seen their proposals?
No.
So
we've seen descriptions of them in public places and if you sort of connect the dots, we know where they're landing. Michael Lord is a Keyport, and then we know that they're connecting at the same substation. And so if you look at how could they get from there to there, it means going through Old Bridge. And I understand that they have. There has been some conversation. I don't want to speak for anybody, but I understand there has been some conversation with town staff.
Yes, if I could, Mr. Rosselli, one of the competitors is coming ashore in Keyport, and they've made contacts in Keyport. So if you're coming through Keyport, you will have to use roads in order to hook into where the line would run along the railroad tracks.
So that's one competitor. Do you have any insight as to any other competitors?
The other competitors are entering into other areas where it's not clear, but there's been proposals down at LBI, proposals through Island Beach State Park and some other areas. It's unclear, but we are the only ones that I know of. And I've done a lot of homework here as well as Mr. Stevens. We're the only ones that are coming through South Amboy and coming down the tracks.
So what guarantee is there that route won't be changed? Because again, I've been involved in projects involving gas lines, and the utility proposes a certain route, goes to the BPU. BPU says we don't like that route. So what happens then?
If BPU doesn't like the route, they may choose
Correct.
one of our competitors. That would change it, but it wouldn't be us. It would be one of our competitors.
Well, I was gonna say, do you get the option to revise the route after you submit it?
Is Mr. Stevens?
The short answer is no. I mean, in our proposal, we describe having options along the route. I described some of them earlier. But we do not show any options for the main section between say Helmetta and until you get to the South Amboy Landing.
So your proposal is going to be, this is for this portion of your route, this is it, no other options.
That's right.
When
the only options we show are in this region here. It's between South Brunswick and Helmetta and Monroe.
when would your proposal be available for public review? After it's submitted to the BPU?
I don't know. That's that's for PJM. So just to get to another level of detail, the entity that's actually running this solicitation and administrating it is PJM, the regional grid operator.
Right.
And they are doing it at the direction, because of an order from the BPU. So I don't know which of those entities is going to be making those kind of decisions, or if they've even made that decision.
Do you know if there will be a public hearing process at all?
I do not know.
Mike, do you know?
It will be the typical BPU process, would involve public hearings.
Those are all the questions I have, Madam President.
Did anyone else have a question?
Yeah, Madam President, how many turbines are involved with this project?
So we are not building turbines. We're building the transmission line to connect the.
No, I know you're doing that, but to your knowledge, how many turbines are involved?
It would be the equivalent of, I'm trying to do some quick math in my head, but maybe 60 turbines, depending on how big they are at the time.
Thank you.
60 turbines, and they're 3 miles out, and you shouldn't be able to see them from shore. Is that what you're saying?
No, they'll be on the order of, they'll be over 25 miles offshore.
Okay. Now, is there a way that the federal government can force us to do this?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Does anyone else have any?
Well, in essence, this is the Green New Deal, which, as we see, is costly to the ratepayer, as Mr. Roselli eloquently set forth earlier.
If I may,
would I be, correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't each turbine give off some type of carbon footprint?
It doesn't emit carbon. It doesn't emit carbon.
Wasn't it built with steel and everything and reinforced with concrete?
Right, but that doesn't emit carbon.
What does it emit then?
Nothing.
Doesn't emit anything, okay.
and if I may, this is not a project that's under the Green New Deal. No Green New Deal has been passed by Congress as of yet. This is a state project.
Okay, so but it's in essence the same thing.
Can the state force us to do this? I know you said the federal government can't, but if they decide, can they force us to?
To accept the power line?
Yes.
There has been legislation passed that does allow whoever is awarded the project the power of a utility, and that utility could take certain measures to place the line in where it wants to go. We have chosen not to do that. We want to partner with the communities to work with the communities to make sure that the line is put into the proper place that's least impactful to the townspeople.
So we're supposed to make a decision before we know what the other competitors are offering?
As far as making a decision, the only thing we ask is just for general support.
Can I just follow up with that? So Mike, so what you're telling me then, because Mr. Stevens had said that they're not a utility and they don't have the power of the utility, but that's not the case, right?
That is the case. We are not a utility until we are declared to be a utility. And right now we are not.
All right.
That's an accurate answer.
All right. So let's cut hair. So the legislation then, if you're selected, would give the power of condemnation. Is that what you're saying?
So
Only if we-
if I could I clarify, because I think I think I'm the one who said that we do not have the power of condemnation, and that is true even under this legislation.
Correct.
What, condemnation in the sense of a public taking of a private land, even with this legislation, we would not have that power.
So what power then would you have?
We would have the power to install in a public way. Install
In public right of way.
Without it
Correct.
being actually a taking of the land in any
Well,
sense.
basically, that's similar to a power company putting power lines.
Correct.
So they probably mimic the provisions of municipal land use law in that regard.
But only in public ways, not, a condemnation implies, being able to condemn a private land.
I know what it is. Okay. Just want to make sure the record's perfectly clear since we're
Sure.
switching years.
Is there anyone else who has a question or a comment for the gentleman?
Yes. How many other companies are proposing or are involved in this thing that we haven't heard from? How many other projects are there?
Well, we don't know for sure ourselves
don't know.
because they're our competitor, and so we might be the last to know, honestly. But from what we can tell, there's probably about 6 other competitors.
I mean, you had to make application to the BPU for this, right?
Yeah, but that
Well, I mean,
application is
so
not.
you know how many are there.
Well, but the deadline is until Friday, so.
Okay, but
Yeah,
we know that maybe 6, 7, 8 companies have applied.
are preparing to apply. That's our guess. That's our estimate. But honestly, you all might be in a better position to know than we.
Correct.
Right, thank you. Anyone else have any questions?
One other thing that I want to mention and reiterate, this is on our border. It does not impact the community negatively. There's a possibility that they can say, yes, you have this project and move it 10 feet, and then Old Bridge isn't affected, but then we lose out on the money and we're still probably going to go through. That's how I'm looking at it.
Anyone?
So basically, it has negative impact to Old Bridge right now, the way this is going to be built, and you feel this is way it will be built.
We believe this is the best. Yeah,
This is
go ahead.
our proposal.
Go ahead, Eric.
This is our proposal. And we think it's a good one for the reasons we described. So if the question is sort of what if our proposal isn't selected, what might be selected, I guess there's sort of 2 categories of what the other might be. One is it's in someplace else altogether and it doesn't impact Old Bridge at all, for better or worse. Another possibility is that it is going through Old Bridge and the impacts are worse. I suppose it's possible that it might also go through Old Bridge and the impacts are better, but I suspect you would have known all about that if that was the case.
But what I'm saying to you is, if we're agreeing on this proposal, can they move it? That's what I need to know.
No.
Yeah.
Is the short answer.
Okay.
And again, we're not committing you to agree to anything. We're just asking for a general resolution of support.
Right. I understand that. Okay.
I think.
So just because
it's
we're agreeing in
important,
general, it could
Mark,
change. It could be
Mark,
another.
Can you explain oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
For the attorney, Mark, are you still there?
Mark, you're muted.
I think it's important that I point out that, and I think we'll, as soon as Mark comes
I'm
back,
here.
Mark can explain the resolution. We changed the language to make it generic about not the specific company, but the concept, how it will go through our town. And this is what we thought would be the best. Nicole?
Mark,
Yes.
okay. If another company was awarded the whatever this is, this contract.
The proposal,
Proposal.
Yep.
And it came along the New Jersey coastline tracks through Lawrence Harbor, Clipper Beach. And would they be required to pay host fees? Or is anybody required to pay the host fees? Or
Based upon what Mr. Herbert said, no. Mike, is that correct?
I'm sorry, ask the question again. I apologize.
Basically, are any, let's say someone else has ordered a contract, is there a requirement as part of the solicitation that that a host community benefit get paid?
No.
So this is part of it. This is part of Atlantic's proposal that will be included based upon the representation and their proposal to the BPU, this host benefit.
Correct, Mr. Rosselli. Thank you. Correct.
In addition to the, I'll call them, it's not a tax payment or whatever that payment is for the, is that something that's also going to be part of your proposal?
Yes, Mr. Rosselli.
And that's in an undetermined amount at this point.
Yes, we've run some ballpark figures, but it will be substantial. I can tell you that.
Right. I know Mrs. Shapiro has had her hand up for quite a while. Can we let Mrs. Shapiro speak, please?
Thank you, Council President. I just wanted to, I think a lot of what I wanted to say was covered, I guess, especially by Mr. Roselli, but I just want the council to know that I did talk to one other firm. I did not physically see a map that indicates their route, but they did tell me via email and over the phone that their route within Old Bridge Township was through railroad right-of-way, similar to what is described on the map on the screen. Also, they did speak about a host community benefit payment as well, similar to what Mr. Herbert and Mr. Stevens is discussing tonight. And then when Mr. Roselli and I had discussed some of the details of the resolution, I had included some notes from our meeting with Mr. Herbert and Mr. Stevens. I just asked that some of those sort of minute details on the construction seems to, from the presentation tonight, differ from what my notes have. So we would have to then revise that. So I just want to put that on the record.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Shapiro. Mr. Murphy? Mr. Murphy?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, where'd the attorney go? Well, anyway, oh, there he is. Mr. Rizzoli, did Mr. Stevens tell you it could cost like about, did I misunderstand that he said billions of dollars to the state?
Well, first of all, Mr. Roselli, I'm not sure if Mr. Rizzoli took his bar, but hey, anybody can be an attorney these days. But that being said, I think Mr. Stevens had indicated, I don't speak for him, Mr. Stevens. I think you have an estimate for the cost.
It's on the order of several billions.
Okay.
For the total initial cost. So it's similar cost to a new large nuclear plant, say.
Well, I don't see any advantage to that. That's going to cost New Jersey Old Bridge residents a lot of money, and I have no plan on putting any kind of money on Old Bridge at this time. I feel they pay enough, and I could never recommend them to pay more. Especially we're not getting HOSTA or anything like that.
Just so it's clear, Mr. Murphy, apparently the project's going to happen regardless. And so, you know, unless God comes and smacks us down a few, and maybe he will, but it's a fait accompli. So, you know, at some point, the ratepayers of New Jersey can expect there'll be an increase for this project.
If it goes through.
Well, apparently they're taking solicitations. I mean, ultimately correct if it gets built, but at this point, let's presume it's going to be built, and that's the course it's taking.
Well, Ms. Shapiro has other ideas of other people she spoke to. I think we should entertain some more people before we just select one. It's the first I've ever heard about this. Nobody's ever talked to me about it, so I couldn't vote for it anyway. I don't. Huh?
If I could, I apologize. We're not looking for you to choose one. We choose one of the parties. We're just asking for a general resolution of support for the line to be run along the tracks. We're not asking you if another party comes in, we're not saying you're against them. We're just asking for a general letter of support because of the benefits that Old Bridge
Yeah,
would receive.
but I don't believe you answered some of Mr. Rizzoli's questions, and you definitely didn't answer mine where it's going to be buried shallow, because that's where the boats do hit it, and you can't get through it. That's why the water main is almost sitting on top of the basin.
Well, as Mr. Stevens testified to, there are a lot of regulations that surround the installation of it within the bay. And this has been done elsewhere, including the North Sea above Germany, where there's a lot of anchoring boats. It is being built up in Massachusetts with the same situation. So this company is very much an expert in making sure it's buried away from wherever it could be hindered by either boat anchors or anything else. It's engineered to make sure that does not happen.
Well, I'm only looking out for Old Bridge. I don't care about other countries or anything, especially at this time.
Of course. And we're just trying to present something that is a nice option we believe is a nice option for Old Bridge that could give Old Bridge a nice rateable and income and have almost no adverse effect upon Old Bridge Township as far as the construction and the running of the line.
Okay, thank you.
Right?
I think that this is going to go through, not saying from this particular company, but I think eventually it's going to go through. So I guess we have to say we want to get the most benefit for Old Bridge that we can. I just hate that this is going to cost the state of New Jersey billions of dollars. And ultimately, I'd like to see who's making all that money. But I think at this time, since it's going to go through anyway, I think we have to take what's best for Old Bridge, which is get some money from it at least.
So if I can, counsel, to Hamachi's point earlier. So in discussing with Nicole, and since she had more familiarity with what was going on than I did, I think the decision was made to make the resolution a general resolution, not for this particular entity, but for a project that would utilize the railway right-of-way, and then also recognize the fact that the town would entertain receiving a host benefit, obviously, and any other potential tax revenue that could be generated. Because I think if it's going to occur, they're right. The best thing for this plan is to utilize those right-of-ways. And so that's how it's structured. I mean, again, the resolution doesn't name Atlantic by name actually at all. But if theirs is the only proposal that is utilizing these right-of-ways, then, even people at the state can figure that out. So that's the way it's written, which I think that's the appropriate way, because again, the council's at a bit of a disadvantage, and so are we. This all came together very quickly. Hamachu used this as an opportunity to introduce the project to you all and the residents of Old Bridge. And again, to the extent that it's going to occur, this route would seem to be the most advantageous. And basically that's what the resolution does. And then it indicates that, whether it's Atlantic, or let's say there's another entity that calls tomorrow and say, hey, we're using this right of way as well. Will you support it? We're even offering the resolution for their submissions as well, as long as they're using the Conrail right of ways. And then also it would then authorize, or not authorize, encourage the mayor to undertake negotiations of a host benefit agreement. And then ultimately, once that occurs and it's satisfactory to the township, then present that to the township for approval. So that's the sum and substance of the resolution. And I apologize for the lateness of getting it, but I was just working with Nicole, just trying to come up with the right language, the right balance, given the newness, all this. I just wanted to make sure it was right.
And my apologies for the lateness of this matter. It was something that was developed over the last couple of weeks. And I really appreciate all Mr. Rosselli's help and Mr. Shaw's help in putting this together. I again apologize for the late hour of this matter. It's it's something we've got to get in by the end of the week. So we need to put the package together by Wednesday. So any help that the town could give us would be greatly appreciated.
Don't forget to thank Rena and Nicole. They even did more.
I
work
apologize,
than I did.
Nicole and Rena. Nicole, you are absolutely right, Mr. Shaw. And Nicole and Rena have been an absolute pleasure to deal with. And Nicole has a real expertise in this area as well. The town is lucky to have her.
Okay, I do believe the mayor has something he'd like to say.
Thank you, council. Yeah, I would just ask the council to please support the basic concept that's been presented to you tonight. I think some council people have said it. This line, I believe, is going to be run. The windmills are going off the coast of New Jersey. The South Brunswick Quick Station is in South Brunswick, and it's going to be a line run somewhere. And if it is to come through Old Bridge, I believe that this is the best place to run it, right on our border, with minimal impact to the community. I don't believe we have any residential units along the right of way. And as I said, it's only about 10 feet from the border of other towns. You couldn't get it any closer to the border without being the borderline, actually, which I think is the railroad right away to most of Old Bridge, Sayreville, and East Brunswick. So the basic concept makes a lot of sense for Old Bridge and the future of what we're heading for, as Mr. De Palma said. The country, some people might not like it, but we are heading towards renewable, clean energy. And I had one question. Are there lines like this in service anywhere in the country right now that are built and in service?
For serving windmills, no, not to my knowledge.
I would assume they're in other parts of the world.
Yes, they're all over Europe.
Offshore wind is very popular in Europe.
Yeah.
So
there is a similar line going from Sayreville to Long Island, but that's for a different purpose. But it's the same technology, same cable type.
I think this is best for the residents of Old Bridge. The line's going to go through. As we all know, we're going to pay for infrastructure, as we have in the past and will in the future, for overhead power lines and grid improvements. We saw it with Sandy, all the redundancy that was built into the grid. As ratepayers, we all pay that. And we are going to pay for this line to be installed. And as I think elected officials, we have an obligation to make sure that we can get the best fit for Old Bridge, whether it be the line along our border, and also if we can recoup some finances through this. I think it's a win-win for, I don't know if that's the right words to say, but I ask for the council, please, to support the basic concept. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, are we all good? Everybody's good? Mr. Murphy? And then I'm going to try to start to close this down, guys.
Mr. Murphy, you're muted.
Okay. First of all, they never mentioned the average wind speed has to be 11 miles per hour to even have windmills. I don't know if they've looked into that. And I don't mind mentioning the concept and voting on the concept without mentioning their name. Can that be possible, Mr. Rosselli? I'll vote on the concept, not with their name in it, though.
So again, as I said, the resolution itself references the project, that it's going to be the windmill transmission project being located where it's going to be located, talks about where it's going to enter, and then a proposal that would use buried cable within the existing rail right of way, and then supporting that type of installation along with a host benefit and along with the for lack of a better term, the property tax revenue.
Okay, so we're not going to mention their name at all.
We're not. And as I said, it also, let's say to the extent that there's another entity that happens to be using the same right of ways.
Okay.
Contact Nicole tomorrow, and we're going to make the same resolution available to them because, again, we support utilizing the rail right of ways. And if Atlantic is the only entity that does that, then obviously that's to their benefit. And so that they can, at that point, say, see, our project using these right of ways is supported by all the communities along the route.
Yeah, thank you, Mr.
Okay,
Roselli.
my
That's
only
exactly
other
what-
question. My only other question, Mr. Herbert, has the average wind speed been calculated?
I
It
can
has
tell
to be
you,
11
Mr.
miles, it has to be an average of 11 miles per hour,
Sure.
or it's not going to work.
No, completely understandable, and I can tell you this is one of the best wind fields in the whole world, but Mr. Stevens is my expert, so let me have him state what's going on out there.
Okay.
Yes, that's actually right. It's a very strong, steady wind resource out there. The average wind speed is one measure of looking at it. The other measure that's used is what's called a capacity factor,
Right.
which is the amount of if the average time which the project is running at full speed.
Exactly.
Way to put it.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
Mr. De Palma?
Yeah, I just have one real quick question, Mayor, I promise. The power lines that are coming in, are they hitting any, so are we going to capture any of the energy coming offshore with your project, or is it just going to one substation outside of town?
It just goes to the one substation in South Brunswick.
Okay.
It's just the way the grid works. Yeah.
No problem. I just wanted to clarify that question. Thank you.
Good question.
Right, yep, that is. Thank you, gentlemen, for all the time. I'd like to ask the council now, what is your pleasure as far as the resolution is concerned?
Mary, I think conceptually, obviously not having a developer's name in there, I think supporting the project, it's going to happen, right? One way or another, whether we support it and try to get it as we feel with the least, as the mayor said, really no impact to the no impact to residential units. And I think that's the most important thing. So I think we go ahead and we support the resolution the way it's written, the way Mr. Roselli wrote it. It's just the concept.
Okay. So you're making the motion for this resolution?
Yes.
So we just note, actually, Nicole did more of the writing than I did. I cleaned it up.
That's the problem.
Thanks, Nicole. But we may need to tweak it. So ultimately, again, because there's some technical aspects as far as the depth of the cable being 3 to 4 feet versus, I think the resolution said 8 feet. But that's the only caveat that we'll just.
Mr. Rosselli, I apologize. 8 feet applies to the railroad bed through the town. The 3 to 4 feet was the seabed out in the ocean.
Right. I think when I'd asked Mr. Stevens what's the depth of the onshore cable, I think he said it was going to be 3 to 4 feet.
That's
Mr.
right.
Stevens,
Right. Yeah. I think maybe where the 8 feet came from, I'm remembering this discussion. I think maybe where the confusion was, we were trying to paint a picture with words. The bottom of the deck bank, the concrete block, is probably about 8 feet. And so then if it's 4 feet tall, that would make it 8 feet, 8 feet deep, the deepest point, but 4 feet from the surface of the ground to the top of the duck bank.
Then Mr. Rosselli, I stand corrected.
But in the bay, there's a hard sediment there where the water main is only about a foot deep. And he knows there's a hard main there too. So I don't know if you gotta count that, because that's where the water main coming from Middlesex got hit twice.
Sure.
I just want to make that point.
That will be taken into account if we are awarded the bid.
Okay.
All right. So from what I hear, Mr. De Palma made a motion for this resolution. Do we have a second?
Second.
I'll second.
Okay, second by Mrs. Walker.
Ms. Brown is absent. Mr. De Palma,
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg Belli,
Yes.
Mr. Merwin,
Yes.
Mr. Murphy,
Yes.
Mr. Piscitty,
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli,
Yes.
Ms. Walker,
Yes.
President Sohor.
Yes.
We have 8 ayes and 1 absent.
Okay, well, thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you. to all
Thank you very
the-
much. If it would be possible for me to inquire to get a copy of the resolution tomorrow, is that possible?
Yes,
Gabby, okay.
absolutely. We'll send it to you as soon as it's available.
Thank you so much. You have my email account, is that correct?
I do.
Thank you very much. Council members, I can't thank you enough on behalf of Atlantic Power. We really appreciate your time tonight and your excellent questions. And again, to Mr. Shapiro, Mr. Roselli, and Mr. Shaw, and everyone else that was involved in this, we really appreciate all your time and efforts. Excellent questions all, and your expertise was very valued. So thank you again.
Thank you all very much.
All right, thank you very much. Have a good evening, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Next will be approval of minutes of previous meetings. Reorganization meeting minutes of January 4th, 2021. Do I have a motion?
Move it.
Second.
Okay, moved by Mr. Murphy, second by Mr. Pescetti.
Ms. Brown is absent. Mr. De Palma,
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg Belli,
Yes.
Mr. Merwin, absent Dias, Mr. Murphy,
Yes.
Mr. Piscitty,
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli,
Yes.
Ms. Walker,
Yes.
President Sohor.
Yes.
President, we have 7 ayes, 1 absent, and 1 absent Dias.
Okay, next combined council meeting minutes of August 10th, 2021. Do I
Move
have a
it.
motion?
Move it.
Okay, moved by Mr. Murphy, second by Dr. Greenberg Belli.
Ms. Brown is absent. Mr. De Palma,
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg Belli,
Yes.
Mr. Merwin is absent Dias. Mr. Murphy,
Yes.
Mr. Piscitty,
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli,
Yes.
Ms. Walker,
Yes.
President Sohor.
Yes.
We have 7 ayes, 1 absent, and 1 absent Dias.
Okay, next will be bill list, Mrs. Walker. Am I muted?
Sorry, my mute button's giving me a lot of trouble tonight.
Okay,
Accounts payable, $20,836,731.38. Payroll, August 20th, 2021, $856,886.43. August 20th, 2021, payroll overtime, $52,705.03. September 3rd, 2021, payroll, $843,060.66. September 3rd, 2021, payroll overtime, $60,868.49. A total of $22,650,251.99.
okay, do I have a motion?
Move it.
I'll second it.
Who moved it, John? Okay, Mr.
No,
Murphy.
so I second it.
Okay. Now, Mr. Shaw, can we have a breakdown of the overtime, please?
Thank you, Mr. President, Council President. There are no uptake in any other departments during this both pay period. For the police overtime for August 20, as Councilwoman Walker indicated, $42,145.80 for the, I'm sorry. $52,705.03 for the police department. The total sworn police overtime was $42,145.80. Deduct grant, $5,856.45. Deduct ETO, $4,489.62. Net overtime was $31,799.73, representing 521.25 men and women hours. For September 3rd, the total overtime, as Councilwoman Walker indicated, was $60,868.49. For the police officer, the sworn police overtime was $48,661.86. Deduct grants, $13,953.97. Deduct ETO, $10,750.10. Net overtime was $23,957.79, representing 443.50 men and women hours. There was no pandemic cost during this pay period.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Shaw.
Ms. Brown is absent. Mr. De Palma,
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg Belli,
Yes.
Mr. Merwin, absent Dias, Mr. Murphy,
Yes.
Mr. Piscitty,
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli,
Yes.
Ms. Walker,
Yes.
President Sohor.
Yes,
That's 7 ayes, 1 absent Dias.
okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Walker. Okay, next will be public hearing and or adoption amendment for those ordinances for second reading. H1, an ordinance accepting and establishing regulations of the operation of traffic control device at County Route 516, Old Bridge, Mattawan Road, and Morganville Road in the Township of Old Bridge, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey. Do I have a motion?
Move it.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Dr. Greenberg Belli, second by Mrs. Walker. And now we'll open it up to the public.
If you'd like to make a public comment on our first hearing, which is our ordinance for our traffic control device on County Route 516, please call into Zoom. Our call-in number is 929-205-6099. Our Zoom ID is 832-8249-4684, and our passcode is 321047. Once you're in our Zoom session, you can press *9 from your phone, Option or Alt-Y from your Mac or PC, or choose the raise hand option on your phone or computer app. At this time, if anybody has any public comments on this matter, they can raise their hand. Council President, I do not have any raised hands for public comment.
Okay, seeing no raised hands, I will close the public portion. Any council comments? Anyone from the council? No? Okay.
Ms. Brown is absent. Mr. De Palma,
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg Belli,
Yes.
Mr. Merwin,
Yes.
Mr. Murphy,
Yes.
Mr. Piscitty,
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli,
Yes.
Ms. Walker,
Yes.
President Sohor.
Yes.
We have 8 ayes.
Next will be H2, ordinance amending Old Bridge Township Code, Chapter 10, Section 8.7, titled Parking Regulations to prohibit parking along Valley Avenue. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Second, anyone?
Second.
Okay, moved by Mr. Merwin, second by Mr. Rizzoli, and now we'll open it up to the public.
Again, our Zoom ID 832-8249-4684, and our passcode 321047. If someone would like to make a public comment on the parking prohibition along Valley Avenue, they can raise their hand by pressing *9, Option or Alt-Y from their Mac or PC, or the raise hand option. Council President, I do not have any raised hands for public comment.
Okay, so I will close the public portion. And does council have any comments? Seeing no hands?
Ms. Brown is absent. Mr. De Palma,
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg Belli,
Yes.
Mr. Merwin,
Yes.
Mr. Murphy,
Yes.
Mr. Piscitty,
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli,
Yes.
Ms. Walker,
Yes.
President Sohor.
Yes.
We have 8 ayes.
Next is H3, capital ordinance for 2021, various park improvements. Do I have a motion?
Move it. Second.
Okay, moved by Dr. Greenberg Belli, second by Mrs. Walker, and I'll now open it up to the public.
As before, our Zoom ID 832-8249-4684 and our passcode 321047. Again, to raise your hand, *9 from your phone, Option or Alt-Y from your Mac or PC, or the raise hand option in your Zoom app. This is for public comment only on our capital ordinance for 2020 various park improvements. Council President, I have no raised hands.
Okay, I will close the public portion and now ask if council has any comments. Okay, seeing no comments.
Ms. Brown is absent. Mr. De Palma,
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg Belli,
Yes.
Mr. Merwin,
Yes.
Mr. Murphy,
Yes.
Mr. Piscitty,
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli,
Yes.
Ms. Walker,
Yes.
President Sohor.
Yes.
8 ayes.
Okay, next will be H4. Resolution approving non-substantial amendments to redevelopment plan for intersection of Jake Brown Road and US Highway 9 and intersection of Jake Brown Road and White Oak Lane.
So, Madam President, Mark Roselli, so basically, what this is, it's in conjunction with the Jake Brown Road redevelopment plan. And after it was introduced at the last meeting, it was then I reviewed it further with Vina, and after reviewing it, it was necessary to make certain amendments. And when I say amendments, most of them, or the overwhelming majority, are grammatical and formatting, and certainly nothing changes the substance of the ordinance itself. In this instance, the ordinance isn't being changed, it's the plan. And the plan gets adopted by ordinance. Those changes were sent to council. I'm not sure if council saw those changes or not. I know Vina had forwarded a red line version. Gabby, I'm not sure if you had sent that along to council.
It was included in the backup documents on Novus.
Okay, so Vina, so maybe if you could, can you pull it up?
Sure.
So again, this is the redevelopment plan for the Jake Brown Road, Route 9, White Oak Lane and Jake Brown. So what you'll see, if we go through, we'll scroll through the changes. The changes themselves are slow down there.
No change. Yeah, there are no changes. There are no changes in the first 10 pages.
All right. I can read pretty fast. So again, it's stylistic and just clarification. The substance of the plan is not being changed. This is just following what had been there before, making Bordentown Avenue versus Road. Slow down there, Nicole, Vina. Again, just grammar in part, and this is quoting a statute. So the word there. Okay, Vina.
Come on, hurry up, Mark.
Reductions. I just want to make sure. I'm not sure if all council saw it. Again, so you just see in paragraph numbers.
We saw it, Mark. It was in the backup.
All right. So I want to make sure everybody saw it because I had a question. So those are the changes. So what we need to do, or what you need to do, is given the fact that there were changes to the plan, and there were a few of them, I'd suggested that you all adopt the resolution and then have the public hearing on the plan/ordinance as amended. So anybody have any questions on the proposed, the changes in the Jake Brown plan?
Now, does someone want to make a motion, or do you have a comment or a question for our?
I'd like to make a motion if no one has a comment.
Second,
Yeah,
All right.
love what you did with it, Mark, with the indentations and everything.
Okay, so
Anal, that's all I can tell you.
Mr. Murphy made a second.
Ms. Brown is absent. Mr. De Palma,
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg Belli,
Yes.
Mr. Merwin. Mr. Merwin? You're muted.
Oh, there, yes.
Thank you. Mr. Murphy,
yes.
Mr. Piscitty,
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli,
Yes.
Ms. Walker,
Yes.
President Zohor.
Yes.
That's 8 ayes.
Okay, thank you all. Next will be H5, an ordinance adopting the redevelopment plan for the area at the intersection of Jake Brown Road and US Highway 9 and White Oak Lane and Jake Brown Road,
As amended.
as amended.
Thank you.
Make the motion.
Okay, Mr. Piscitty, you made a motion?
I just did.
Okay, yes.
Second.
Okay.
We
And
did all
second
that.
by Dr. Greenberg Belli, and I'll now open it up to the public.
We're opening up for public comment on the redevelopment plan for the intersection of Jake Brown Road and US Highway 9 and White Oak Lane. Our Zoom ID is 832-8249-4684, and our passcode is 321047. Again, to raise your hand, please press the *9 from your phone, Alt or Option Y from your Mac or PC, or the raise hand option in your Zoom app. Council President, I do not have any raised hands for public comment on this matter.
Okay, then I will close the public portion. Council, anyone for a comment?
I am.
Mr. Merwin?
Yeah.
Okay,
Again, I just want to emphasize my concern about truck traffic. And so that we're all fully aware of it. That's all.
okay, thank you very much. Anyone else for a comment? No, okay.
Ms. Brown is absent. Mr. De Palma,
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg Belli,
Yes.
Mr. Merwin,
Yes.
Mr. Murphy,
Yes.
Mr. Piscitty,
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli,
Yes.
Ms. Walker,
Yes.
President Zohor.
Yes.
We have 8 ayes.
Okay, next is H6, an ordinance adopting the redevelopment plan for 200 Lawrence Parkway. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Move it.
Second.
Okay, moved by Dr. Greenberg, second by Mr. Rizzoli.
Before we have the public hearing, Madam President, there are 2 minor items that, and this needs to be amended.
Okay,
Vina?
Yes, page 11, in the bulk table, there was an error with the minimum lot size. The original draft had it as 3,000 square feet. However, when I presented the plans too, I had mentioned that what Habitat, Morris Habitat is proposing is pretty consistent with the existing homes or existing lots within the Lawrence Harbor area. That number should reduce down to 1,800 square feet. It was brought to my attention this morning by the engineer, and the floor area ratio, which bumps up because the minimum lot size reduces, the FAR goes up from 0.35 to 0.65. And those are the only 2 changes on page 11.
So I could have a motion to adopt those changes?
Second.
okay, motion by Dr. Greenberg, second, Mr. De Palma.
Oops. Sorry, I went on the wrong side. Ms. Brown is absent. Mr. De Palma? Oh, I have to do public comment. I'm so sorry.
No, you're not doing public comment. You are taking a roll call
And
on
then-
the two amendments.
Right,
Yes.
okay. so
Okay.
Yeah.
Absent. Mr. De Palma?
he said-
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg Belli?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Piscitty?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Ms. Walker?
Yes.
President Zohor.
Yes,
That's 8.
And then you're going to have a have the public hearing on the ordinance and the plan as amended.
So we'll open it up to the public.
If the public has any public comments on the redevelopment plan for 200 Lawrence Parkway as amended, please enter our Zoom through our Zoom ID 832-8249-4684 and our passcode 321047. To raise your hand, please press star 9 from your phone, Option or Alt Y from your Mac or PC, or your raise hand option on your Zoom app. Council President, I do not have any raised hands for public comment.
Okay, I will close the public portion. And now, does the council have any comments? No? Then we'll go to a vote.
Ms. Brown is absent. Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg Belli?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Piscitty?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Ms. Walker?
Yes.
President Sober?
Yes.
We have 8 ayes.
Okay, next will be our consent agenda. I'd like a motion and a second to bring it up and then separate.
Second.
Okay, moved by Dr. Greenberg Belli, second by Mr. Rizzoli.
Okay. Ms. Brown is absent. Mr. De Palma, do you have any removals?
I do not today.
Dr. Greenberg Belli, do you have any removals?
Just have a question with the engineer on C4.
So you want to
So you want to
separate?
Separate, please.
Mr. Merwin?
Mr. Merwin, you're muted.
Okay, now, I'm up.
You're up now.
Okay.
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 1, 3, and 5.
Okay, C1.
C1.
C3, and C5. Okay.
Okay. Mr. Murphy, do you have any separations?
No.
Mr. Piscitty?
Yes, if somebody could help me. There was something on the consent agenda about using grant money for the Cottrell Farm. And I don't see it on my copy.
That was the ordinance.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, never mind then. No, I have nothing. Sorry.
Okay. Okay, no worries.
Mr. Rizzoli?
None, thank you.
Ms. Walker?
No, thank you.
President Sober?
No.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll vote on the balance.
Ms. Brown is absent. Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg Belli?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Piscitty?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Ms. Walker?
Yes.
President Sober?
Yes.
We have 8 ayes.
Okay, next will be C1. Mr. Merwin? Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Okay,
Sorry about that.
that's okay.
Now, what's the matter with this generator?
Oh, that's the H.
Nicole, you want to go over the detail?
Yeah, thank you, council. So this professional services contract is a little bit odd. We had started 2 separate projects a few years ago, delayed by the pandemic. One was to take a look at the administration generator that's used outside the back of the administration building as a backup generator. And then how is it utilized and how can we better utilize it? A second project that was concurrently running at the same time was how can we service the senior center building as well as the civic center building with new generators. Those projects were both head up by Kyle Harris, our DPW director at the time. Since then, the engineering department has taken over both those contracts. And in looking at the project as a whole, especially with the last 2 hurricanes that have come through, it's evident that we should have sort of a campus-wide upgrade on our generators. So the generator that would be in the back of the administration building would then get relocated to the Public Works Department to then service the Public Works, Food Bank, and the Building Department. And then we would then propose two larger generators in series by the HVAC units that are behind the senior building, if people are familiar with that. And then they would then service the administration building, senior and civic center building, and then backfeed the Public Works Department building, food bank, and code enforcement. So it would be more of a campus-wide generator project instead of just isolating sort of these smaller projects, and it's more cost effective on the construction end. So you might see a little bit more money in the design phase. Just know those two projects still have money left in them. So we're going to cancel those two design projects at the next meeting. So you will see then that design fee coming back to us. Now, certainly they had progressed probably about 80% of the way. So it would only be realization of 20% of that design fee, but still the savings on the construction end of it and a more service as far as the generators would be more beneficial to the complex than the way it stands now.
Okay. There's nothing wrong with the generator that's there now, right?
The DPW one is quite old. That's why we were going to relocate the one in the back of the administration building. It was only used as a secondary. When we had done our investigation with USA Architect, it was only being utilized about 37% of the time, 37% utilization on its full capacity. So it really wasn't being used as well as it could be. And now with the aging generator for DPW, we thought it better be serviced as moving it there, providing then two larger generators to service all three buildings. And there are electrical upgrades also. There's switch gear in the basement that needs to be upgraded. So there's a lot more detail than what I'm going. I'm not a mechanical electrical engineer, but there's a lot more detail as far as the upgrades within this building and senior and civic center buildings that would be realized with this project.
I knew the generator wasn't that old behind the administrative building, and I was wondering what was the problem.
Yes, surprised it's not.
That somewhere else now.
Yeah, we're going to use that at DPW. DPW, their generator now is old.
Okay. No, that's the only questions I had, is because I knew it wasn't that old. All right. So if nobody else has any other questions, I'll move it.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Merwin moved it, second by Dr. Greenberg Belli.
Ms. Brown is absent. Mr. De Palma,
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg Belli,
Yes.
Mr. Merwin,
Yes.
Mr. Murphy,
Yes.
Mr. Piscitty. Mr. Piscitty,
Yes, sorry.
okay. Mr. Rizzoli,
Yes.
Ms. Walker,
Yes.
President Sohor.
Yes.
We have 8 ayes.
Okay, next will be C3, Mr. Merwin.
Yeah, I just keep it with my promise to Amachu. Every time Nicole puts one up there, that's a decrease. I just want to applaud them.
Yeah, you will.
All right, I told you I would. So you have an 8% decrease on that contract. Well, how come, Nicole?
So when we had originally worked on the building department with USA Architects, the newer technology based on what has come out from COVID is HVAC pathogen controls within your HVAC units, or you could put UV lights within the rooms themselves to try and kill off any of the viruses that sort of plague us. Now, we had selected the HVAC pathogen controls in the HVAC units. Now, remember, we got, well, you don't know, but on the back side of things, we did get credit because now we switched out our HVAC units as a whole, but the UV lights are not necessary, but they were left in by USA Architects. Contractor purchased them. We were able to return them. We didn't have to install them. Now we get credit.
Very love when a plan comes together, right?
Absolutely.
If nobody else has any questions, I'll move it.
Second,
Okay, moved by Mr. Merwin, second by Dr. Greenberg Belli.
Ms. Brown is absent. Mr. De Palma,
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg Belli,
yes.
Mr. Merwin,
Yes,
Mr. Murphy,
Yes.
Mr. Piscitty,
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli,
Yes.
Ms. Walker,
Yes.
President Sower.
Yes.
We have 8 ayes.
Okay, next is C4, Dr. Greenberg Belli.
Yes, I just had a question for engineer. I know Nicole worked, Ms. Shapiro worked so hard on getting this project going with the people on Darwin and Madison Avenue. We've had discussions at meetings, so I just wanted to get an update so people understood what was going on.
So this is the cancellation of the contract that was awarded to Nava Construction. In their contract, we had put in utility subsurface investigations, and I think we had put in, I believe it was 14 test pits. So every other home would get a test pit so we could specifically locate where the utilities were. In the design phase, we reached out to PSE&G, and OBMUA, who had given me their available information that we had then transposed onto our design drawings. With that said, our subsurface investigation had found those lines for the gas, sewer, and water are not where we had thought that they were based on the information that we had gotten from the utility companies. It requires additional utility investigation to see where they are. PSE&G is going to come in before us and relocate their gas service lines to be at a different elevation. However, we need more subsurface utility investigations, and I need to bid out the job with the relocation for sanitary and water line in there for the contractor. Nava Construction was honest with us, and they told us they are not utility experts with the relocation. And quite honestly, I think to get a better price, we should rebid it with the utility cost. So now I'm talking to a subsurface utility investigation firm to see if they can give me a cost to do it the right way, to see where the utilities are. Once we have that information, our plans will be updated, and then we will go out to bid again and get a quote for the service relocation.
It's important to recognize, though, that the contract that was awarded was based upon specifications that really weren't the conditions of the field. So
Yes.
wouldn't have been appropriate to require Nava to fulfill that contract. They were at a disadvantage, not at anyone's fault, just because of the conditions. And Nicole's right. The thought was, rather than, they shouldn't be penalized, we need to come up with new specs. It's not a situation where any contract would have been in the same situation. And rather than do it through a potential change order and not knowing the conditions, existing conditions, the better way to do it was to cancel it, do the investigation, and then rebid the project.
Thank you. Thank you for that explanation. Appreciate it. I'll move it.
second,
Okay, moved by Dr. Greenberg Belli, second by Mr. Merwin.
Ms. Brown is absent. Mr. De Palma,
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg Belli,
Yes.
Mr. Merwin,
yes,
Mr. Murphy,
Yes.
Mr. Piscitty,
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli,
Yes.
Ms. Walker,
Yes.
President Sower.
Yes.
That's 8 ayes.
Okay, next is C5, Mr. Merwin.
yes. This is the opposite of the last one, Nicole.
No, but this is different, Councilman Merwin.
No, I know, I mean, 150 cost of the job, it's gotta be some reason.
We're actually doing a lot more work. So, our contractor now for the sort of the southern retaining wall and stair system, right? He's excavated a lot, but now when you look at the base, right, of the amphitheater, we want to make more usable space while he's down there with his heavy equipment. We wanted to build sort of a keystone retaining wall to gain more space at the base of the amphitheater. And then he's going to redo some of the concrete. He's going to take that stage area out. And then what you don't see is we're going to come in next year and put sort of a turf surface down at the base of the amphitheater. This will give us more usable area now And then next year in our capital, we're going to put that turf surface down. And what that'll do is once we have our camp programs and our after care programs and before care programs, there's a space congruent to the building where the students can actually go and have a recreational space. So we're trying to make that space at the base of the amphitheater more usable. This is additional work.
Great explanation. I mean, the contractor is a good contractor, so I was wondering how the heck we come up with 19% increase. If nobody else has any questions, I'll move it.
Second.
A move by Mr. Merwin, second by Mr. Pescini.
Ms. Brown is absent. Mr. De Palma,
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg Belli,
Yes.
Mr. Merwin,
Yes.
Mr. Murphy,
Yes.
Mr. Pescini,
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli,
Yes.
Ms. Walker,
Yes.
President Sobor.
Yes.
8 ayes.
Okay, that's the consent agenda. Next will be discussion ordinances. Chapter 39-4D, change in area necessary for harboring chickens on private property. Dr. Greenberg Belli.
Okay. So during the pandemic, a lot of people, stayed at home, and I was getting calls from people that they wanted to have chickens and ducks and have their own eggs. So also, there's a lot of people, if you frequent Tractor Supply now in Old Bridge, there's always a lot of chickens, little baby chicks for sale. So when the people were interested in chickens, they looked at our ordinance, and it's like you have to have 5 acres to have chickens. So literally I went and I looked at other surrounding towns. For example, Sayreville doesn't even have an ordinance. So anyone can have chickens. They just have to they go along with their noise ordinance. So if the chickens are causing a problem between 10 p.m. and 6 in the morning, then they get in a fine, and people come over, the police will come over, or animal control, and investigate. But they're allowed to have chickens. In East Brunswick, you can have pet chickens. In North Brunswick, you have to have a lot size of 50 by 100, and they allow 8 chickens. In Middlesex County, Middlesex Borough, you have to have 100 feet from your neighbors where you house them. So really, it came to light that 5 acres is really incredibly unfortunate. They're not having a commercial chicken farm. They're having them for pets. They're actually pets, and they use the eggs on these chickens and ducks. So I feel that it needs to be addressed. And, an average chicken needs about 3 square feet of land. And a lot of them you can have a chicken coop. They put them in at night, and they have a fenced in area, usually about 10 feet. So I wanted to revisit this so people can have their chickens, feel safe, raise their chickens, their ducks, and have their own eggs, but be comfortable that they're not going to, go against our ordinance. And 5 acres is a lot, to have chickens. So we could, I want to address this where we can do it as far as how many chickens, how much setback I want to look into, if you feel it needs to be inspected. Also, chickens are very good, not only for the eggs, they are fun pets, but also they're good for the environment, because what happens is that they're good for eating a lot of bugs. Guinea hens are good for eating bugs and ticks. Same with the ducks. So they really, cut down on the populations of insects, different parasites on your property. The waste material, you can actually, collect it and use it as fertilizer, in a garden also. So I think that this should be, our ordinance should be changed, that 5 acres is quite excessive to have chickens. And I would like to have a discussion about that. I'm open for anyone's input on it. And I would like to speak to the attorney about, formulating a resolution to change it, ordinance to change it. I can see everyone's thrilled about these chickens.
I got my right hand raised.
You want to talk to me from Camden about chickens? I only know one reason why chickens were used, but they were roosters actually, but that's another story.
No, that is.
Mr.
no.
Piscetti had his hand up. So
Okay.
Mr. Piscetti,
Thank you.
what is your?
Thank you, Council President. You know, out campaigning, a number of people have asked, could I have a chicken in my yard? And I said, there's an ordinance says you gotta have 5 acres. And these houses in Old Bridge, by me at least, you know, they don't have a lot of room. But I mean, this woman one woman wanted to have one chicken as a pet.
Right.
You know, so, you know, it is too restrictive. I think 5 acres is ridiculous. So I would be 100% to change our ordinance. So,
Okay.
Right, thank you. Anyone else have a comment or a question for Dr. Greenberg?
Mary?
Yes.
Yes.
Merwin?
Yes. There's no size gonna be big enough for the neighbor. That's who's always gonna have the problem, not the people with the chicken, but the neighbors. But you hit it right on the head, Anita, when you were mentioning it. You know, they'll go into their hen house, you know, their stuff in that. Now we've already gotten into the point where we have setback problem because it's no different than a shed or anything else. Now we have a hen house for the hens. So there's a lot of mechanisms to this whole thing. And I agree with you. 5 acres is ridiculous. I mean, we know what it was. This was an old farming community, and when the houses came in, they wanted to make sure there was no farm animals by it. And this ordinance has probably never changed in 55 years, if not more. But it is 5 acres is ridiculous, but do we allow them on a 25 by 50 lot in the harbor, or, you know, that's gonna be the questions. And what I opened with, the problem is not with the people with the chickens. The problem is going to be with the people next door to the chickens. And usually if they don't have a rooster, they don't have a problem. People got to get the rooster, you know, and they're the ones that make all the noise.
Well, as far as the rooster, we can write it based on your lot. The shed is going to have the normal setbacks that it would for any shed. Usually when your neighbor, you give them eggs, they're fresh eggs, they're pretty happy. Yes, the rooster does make noise, so maybe on a certain, like there's areas that have 2 acres. I don't know whether a rooster will be, you know, good. Roosters are used where they, you know, really deter predators coming into the hen house or alert you that there's a noise. But obviously if you have a 50 by 100 or 25 by, you know, 50, you certainly don't want a rooster. So these are the things that we can address, you know, and put in it. And as I said, there are some townships that allow, say, at 50 and 108. There's some townships at North Brunswick that allow 20 towards 25. So we can base it on the lot size. But they really are pets, and they really are. You know, people are thinking about sustainability, and they're raising their own eggs now, and they enjoy that. And as I said, the second positive thing also about them is they take care of insects too. So that's a good thing on your property.
I'm not against it. I'm just like trying to point out a few things because I was out there having to go knock on the door saying, hey, you don't have 5 acres. You got to get rid of your chickens. And
Yeah, that's a hard thing to do.
People get upset, you know, and they do get upset that, you know, they, like you said, it's their pet. You know,
yeah. But I will say where there are the chickens, they're people that are very generous. They give eggs all the time. You know, I mean, how many eggs can you eat? Most of all, I mean, you do make a lot, but they give the eggs away. And, you know, so maybe I can have a discussion with animal control and, you know, Captain Grumpkin about it. And then, you know, we'll come up with some areas that maybe we could change the restriction based on lot size, how many chickens, you know, what acreage you're like, whether it's, you know, 2 acres an acre that's allowed a rooster. I mean, there's some houses in Old Bridge, as you know, there's no other houses even near them, you know, sometimes, but, you know, really. And then, also we have a noise ordinance too. So that would take into effect a lot of the problems. And with any situation, I would have to say, whether it's chickens or anything, you have to be a good neighbor. You have to be a good neighbor with anything and realize your neighbor's concerns, and not free range where your chickens are running on your neighbor's properties and things like that. So, I mean, we can come together. So I'm at least happy to see that everyone feels that, 5 acres is a little excessive. And I mean, there's very few people that would be able to have chickens. And so I'll get some information together and I'll get back to the attorney about it.
Okay, and also I've asked Gabby to send each one of you a copy of the ordinance so that you can have it to look at, and look at all the information and perhaps have some ideas too that you could bring to Dr. Greenberg. And, we can come up with something that's reasonable for everyone. Did anyone else, Mr. Murphy?
Yes, I agree with Anita, but what did she bring the chickens up under discussion or?
Yes, under discussion.
Can I bring something up under discussion too?
No, it wasn't on.
This was on the agenda. I brought it up.
Oh, okay, I'll bring in the council comments then.
Yeah, this was from last week. We had.
Okay, I have no problem.
Okay, anyone else?
Thank you.
Have a comment?
I definitely agree with her.
Yeah, okay, good. Anyone else have a comment or a question? Okay, no, so she'll be forwarding you all the information and hopefully we can come up with something that's reasonable and works. I think it's a good idea to revisit it. Thank you, Dr. Green.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
All right, so that's discussion. Next will be report of the township clerk.
I went on the FR1.
Oh,
FR1 was removed.
Oh,
Removed from the final agenda.
Right. So report of township clerk,
I have no report tonight.
report of the township attorney.
I've never had a chicken as a pet. Nothing to
try it sometime,
Alrighty
Mark.
then.
I've eaten a few chickens, but never as a pet.
Now, administrative report. Mr. Shaw,
Can we bypass it since it's getting so late?
No.
Wait a minute. I have to say something tonight, so.
Yeah.
Can we come
Thank you,
back to you
Council
at the end?
President. Before I
wait,
do my normal administrative report, I just want to bring it to the council's attention about the Shiraz School elementary students visiting Old Bridge and having a classroom. So I just want to run down, and I think we need to recognize some people and their efforts in this. It was actually a very good experience for both us and the Board of Education. So on Wednesday of last week, late evening, David Cittadino, Superintendent of School, reached out to Mayor Henry and myself, asking if the township would support an investigation into any space that is available for temporary use of municipal complex. Shirai Elementary School unfortunately has an air quality safety situation and could not let the students and staff enter at that time. Both Mayor and I responded to the request positively, and we immediately responded saying yes, absolutely, to the request, and instructed Matt Mercurio, Director of Parks and Recreation, to contact Mr. Cittadino and start planning. Last Thursday morning, Superintendent, Assistant Superintendent, along with myself, Mayor, Matt Mercurio, and Library Director visited the George Bush Silver Lining Center, the Arthur Haney Old Bridge Public Library Children's Section, and the Richard Allen Cooper Civic Center. The superintendent felt that all three locations were suitable to create the best classroom environment for the students. On Friday, the plans were finalized, and we could not say anything until the Board of Education was absolutely sure that they could not go into the Shiraz School building. And so that was finally decided that they can't, and they would like to utilize our building. So on Friday, the plans were finalized and put into motion to set up all location. Our municipal staff from both Parks and Recreation, Public Works, and the Board of Education staff worked diligently on Friday, Saturday, Sunday to create ideal classroom settings. We also reached out to Marilyn Davies at Optimum Government Affairs Department, who was kind enough to have additional Wi-Fi service installed over the weekend without a cost to the township. Remember, original idea was for a whole week that there will be, we will be hosting them. Mayor and I spoke with the Council President, Mary Sohar, and Library Board President, Barbara Cannon, who both wholeheartedly supported the Board of Education decision to utilize township facilities. We could not reach out to all the council members at the time. We were extremely busy getting all this set up. So I apologize to all the council members, but we did get the support of the council president. We also like to acknowledge Sergeant Tom Montagna and Acting Chief Joe Mandola for ensuring appropriate security and safety for our children to make sure that the area and everything is safe. And also special thanks goes out to Matt Mercurio, Director of Parks Recreation, and Casey Lenning, Director of Public Works, for working the entire weekend. We were in constant communication with each other and getting all set up completed in the classroom. The student arrived yesterday morning and this morning, 2 days, to the welcoming staff of Township and Board of Education. In order for school buses and parents for safely drop off the children, the Township assisted by having their employees park in other location and kept the library and main parking lot free for the parents and students. Everything went smoothly, and we were more than happy to have students and staff here at our complex for last 2 days. The initial plan, as I said, was to operate from the municipal complex for 1 week, but as of today, it was confirmed the school would be ready and safe for all students and staff to return tomorrow. Many members of Civil Learning Center, as earlier Anna indicated, had some great welcoming words of encouragement to serious students during their stay at the center. You know, they do take that center very personally. They enjoy that, and we appreciate them while missing 2 days to support this concept. So I just wanted to update the council. I think it was a good decision all around by Township to support the Board of Education and the school. Now I'm going to go to my administrative report.
Mrs. Chairwoman, I want to remind you, this is a council meeting. The time is going to run out, and I really, no disrespect to Mr. Shah, but we all have a copy of it. We can read it. There's other people that have to talk, including the public, unless you want to change it to 11:30.
John, if we need to, we will. I think the public really does appreciate hearing this report.
No, I do too, but we all have a copy, and I don't want it to cut us short, because we do have some things to say. Thank you.
I always respect every council person. You know that.
Okay.
And I will respect.
Well, it is a council meeting. It's not an administration meeting.
No, of course not. But
He can have a meeting any night of the week he wants.
let's let him finish, and this way we'll move on. You will be recognized.
Okay. Item number 1, 2021 Annual Road Resurfacing Program. On Tuesday, September 7, 2021, Old Bridge Township contractor Mako Inc. began milling and resurfacing various streets within the town. Please visit oldbridge.com/news for most up-to-date information. Item number 2, Parks and Recreation. The full brochure is out and filled with the recreation classes for all ages. Join us for Mommy and Me classes, where you and your child can enjoy multiple activities together. Children age 3 and up can participate in a variety of classes, including but not limited to dancing, ice skating, and art. Camp Robin is also back for the fall. We're offering full lineup of program and activities for our special needs children, teens, and adults. Check our fall brochure at oldbridge.com/recreation for full listing of all of our classes. Registration starts on Wednesday, September 15th at 6 p.m. And number 3, before and after school care program. Currently, we have approximately 410 children enrolled for the before and after care program. We're still actively pursuing applicants for open positions such as paras, aide, and nurses. Council member, we like your help in recruiting those positions. There are still 81 students on waiting list. We have not been able to fill the position needed. To apply, visit oldbridge.com and click on employment opportunity. As we hire a new employee, will then take children off the wait list in order they were put on. If you have any question, please reach out to before and after care school department at afterschool@oldbridge.com or call extension 2395 or visit our website at oldbridge.com/daycare. Item number 4, Old Bridge Day will take place on Saturday, September 25th from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. This family-friendly event features live entertainment, delicious food, games, vendor tables, and opportunity to meet with the township, local government, and officials. Chapel of Old Bridge will be sponsoring all children's ride and activities along with craft, face painting, and so much more. Item number 5, Old Bridge Kindness Challenge. We would like to acknowledge 13 years old residents, Megan Alonzo Love, who is looking to strengthen and unite our community by bringing back our Old Bridge Kindness Challenge. To participate, follow the challenge on Twitter at OBKindness and post your acts of kindness now through September 18th. Item number 6, beach cleanup. On Saturday, September 18th, volunteer group from Carl Sandburg Middle School and Knights of Columbus Old Bridge High School basketball team and the Madison Township Historical Society will be cleaning up the beaches in both Lawrence Harbor and Cliffwood Beach as part of International Coastal Cleanup Day. If anyone would like to volunteer, please reach out to the Clean Community Coordinator at extension 6107 or by emailing recycling@oldbridge.com. And the last item, good news, new police officer. On behalf of Mayor and myself and Acting Chief Mandola, the police department would like to announce the hiring of our new police officer, Robert Gavers Jr. He was sworn in on September 10, 2021. That concludes my report.
Shaw, does any council member have a question or a comment for?
Yes,
Mr.
Madam
Shaw?
President.
Yes.
Mr. Shaw, I'm inquiring about FEMA. I'm sure we had residents who sustained some damage from the storm. Is there going to be a link available where I could be able to provide it?
Yes, we just got the word from our OEM that FEMA will be, I believe, this Saturday, and I'll provide council additional information as soon as it's finalized, but they are supposed to be present at the library, so for residents to visit them. And then after that, if they cannot visit, there still will be an online resources for them to apply. So we'll be providing council that information, and we'll be posting all that information on our social media.
Thank you. I just want to commend everyone on a job well done with the school situation, all staff, the police department, the mayor, yourself. You will no longer have to deal with my early wake-up calls anymore, Mr. Shaw. Thank you again.
Okay, anyone else for a comment or a question for Mr. Shaw?
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. And I agree with Mark on that. That was a great job by everybody at the school. And that's all I want to say.
Okay, Mayor, did you have your hand up as well?
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
now, I'd be remiss if I didn't say a few words. We thanked a lot of people, but I just want to thank the student body and the staff and the teachers and the principal at Sherrod. You can only imagine the stress level that they were at when they were told they have to relocate. I can't imagine relocating the township and all its employees and everything that we need to do. But there was such an effort. The principal, teachers, as I said, the nurse, the entire staff, the lay staff, lunch aides, crossing guards were here, security officers were here, even the school maintenance facility people were here on site, putting picnic tables together and making our campus a school-like campus in a matter of days. And I thought they were going to be here a little bit longer. We're going to miss them tomorrow. But most of all, I need to say the parents, You can only imagine their frustration, not having to start school last week and now having to bring their children at a very young age to a brand new campus. So I have to commend the parents, and I will tell them that their children are probably some of the best behaved children I've ever seen from K through 5th grade. So it says a lot about the parents who dropped their students off here. And boy, they were very good. And I had got so many compliments from other people saying how good these kids were. They were well behaved. And we can all remember being in 5th grade and the terror we wreaked on facilities. So these kids were really good. And again, as Mr. Shah said, it was a group effort. I'm glad we had the opportunity to do that. And again, I'd just like to stress upon Mr. Shah's comment of a new officer being sworn in, Mr. Robert Guevara. Mr. Guevara comes to us from another department. He was employed by the Camden County Police Department. He is an Old Bridge resident. He's moving his employment to Old Bridge, and he also served the Marines. He's a decorated honorary discharge Marine, so he is going to be a great addition to our police department, and we wish him the best of luck. And I certainly expect really good things from him. And so, Council, that's all I have. Thank you. Any questions on any issues? Mr. Shah and I are available.
I move Mr. Shah's report.
Second.
Mary, you still mute.
Sorry, I
Okay,
double
I'm
tapped.
sorry. There was a motion made by Mr. Murphy. There was a second by Mr. Pischetti.
Ms. Brown is absent. Mr. De Palma,
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg Belli,
Yes.
Mr. Merwin,
Yes.
Mr. Murphy,
Yes.
Mr. Pischetti.
I just want to congratulate Bobby Gavaris. He's a Old Bridge Rams.
Ah, very nice.
Yeah, and a yes.
Mr. Rizzoli,
Yes.
Ms. Walker,
Yes.
President Sohor.
Yes.
We have 8 ayes.
Okay, next will be the public comment portion.
Public comment portion of our meeting is to allow the public to bring to the council's attention their concerns or comments. This section is open for any topic or any item in our consent agenda. In accordance with NJSA 10-412A and the Old Bridge Rules of Council, the council asks the public to limit their comments to 3 minutes or less. The council will respect the public's time by refraining from any comment until the speaker has finished with their allotted time. It should be further noted that public comment portion of our meeting is not structured as a question and answer session. If a member of the public has questions they seek answers to, an appointment can be made with the corresponding department's office during regular business hours. The township clerk will regulate the time during the comment portion of our meeting. Once live comments are completed, the written comments submitted earlier today will be read by the township clerk. To raise your hand, please enter our Zoom ID, again, 862-4764-0480. Oh, I apologize, that's actually not our Zoom ID. That's the last one. I lied. Our Zoom ID is 832-8249-4684, and our passcode is 321047. To raise your hand, please press *9 from your phone, Option or Alt-Y from your Mac or PC, or choose the raise hand option in your Zoom app. Council President, I do not have any raised hands at this time.
Motion to
Okay, I
close.
make a motion, okay.
Motion to close.
All right.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Rizzoli, second by Mr. Murphy.
Ms. Brown is absent. Mr. De Palma,
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg Belli,
Yes.
Mr. Merwin.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Murphy,
Yes.
Mr. Pischetti,
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli,
Yes.
Ms. Walker,
Yes.
President Sohor.
Yes.
That's 8 ayes to close our live public comment. At this time, I do have 2 comments that were submitted to me that I do have to read. Also, they will be typed. My first comment is from Krista Fisher. Ms. Fisher stated, I wanted to share wanted to just share a quick thank you to Mayor Owen Henry for his help to the Oak Woods neighborhood after several houses had severe unexpected damage from Hurricane Ida, including my own. It's been a very difficult 2 weeks. Most of the things I've used my life savings on is now in contractor bags on my front lawn. It means a lot to me, and I am sure my neighbors who are affected that he took the time to observe the damage and assist us. I also wanted to let the community know about a current candy drive for the pediatric unit of Robert Wood Johnson, which cares for many of Old Bridge's children. The Child Life Department is amazing for brightening children's days during treatments and care, and as Halloween approaches, it would be great to bring Halloween to the children. This will be a virtual candy drive, and an Amazon wish list has been created. If any residents would like the link, they can feel free to message me on Facebook. I am the administrator of the group Compassionate Parents of Old Bridge. That concludes that comment. And my second comment is from Mike Farrow. My name is Michael Farrow, and I have been a housing code enforcement officer in Old Bridge since 2013. I felt the need to share my perspective in regard to the recent letter to the council addressing the elimination of the resale housing inspections. At the last council meeting, there was a discussion of eliminating the housing inspections for residential resales in the township. It was stated that buyers hire their own inspectors that do a thorough inspection of the property and in much greater detail than we can do at the township. While this is true, there are many items that are missed or negotiated for compensation in order to close. Many of these missed or negotiated items are unsafe. As a licensed electrician, I have seen many life safety hazards during my housing inspections that did not get corrected prior to my inspection. Sellers and their agents make complaints because they just want to close. The truth is, after the buyer's inspection, many items are negotiated between the buyer and the seller for compensation and are subsequently found during the township housing inspection. On the other hand, buyers are happy to close on a temporary certificate of approval if the safety items will be addressed. I propose that we keep this section of the ordinance for the following reasons. A, our inspection finds safety issues after the buyer's inspection, many times negotiated for compensation. There is no guarantee after closing that the funds will be used to fix these items. B, the fees are minimal when it comes to the safety of our new residents moving into Old Bridge. C, township housing inspections are based on the township approved International Property Maintenance Code. We inform the seller of all building and open building and zoning permits so they may be inspected and approved. This ensures that what was installed was done correctly. D, closings are not held up due to housing inspections. Most buyers choose to close on a temporary certificate of approval. By doing this, we are ensuring the safety items are corrected and not being ignored. Many buyers thank us upon our inspection. E, the fees for inspections cover a good part of our expenses in the department. Last year, housing inspection fees were approximately $150,000. The recently approved fee increase would generate additional income. F, all housing inspectors must take the township approved 60-hour Rutgers Center for Government Services course. I am also a New Jersey licensed electrician and contractor for 26 years and in the electrical field for 32 years. In addition, I have held the New Jersey Home Improvement Contractor's License as well as New Jersey Public Works Contractor certificate in the past. I also must take 34 hours of continuing education. Education courses every 3 years to renew my electrical license. G, housing inspections were instituted by the building department and approved by council for safety of new residents moving into the township. H, many towns do have a resale inspection requirement such as Piscataway, Edison, South River, Sayreville, South Amboy, North Brunswick, Marlborough, Manalapan, New Brunswick, Perth Amboy, Carteret, Helmetta, Hazlet, Aberdeen, Matawan, Highland Park, Plainsboro, Denellen, and Plainfield. If anyone is interested in learning more about how important our housing inspections are, I would be happy to have you accompany me on an inspection to see firsthand what we find after the buyer's inspection is done. If this is not permissible, I would be happy to come to your home after work hours to perform a housing inspection so you can see firsthand what it is all about. Unfortunately, that concludes the 3-minute time limit and the comment has not completed, but I must stop. Council President, that is the end of our public comments.
Okay, thank you very much.
I move it.
There's no
motion. Movement. We're good, John. We closed.
Okay.
And now we're going to start on the council comments. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Okay.
Ms. Brown is absent from council comments. I apologize. Mr. Ohalma, do you have any council comments tonight?
Yes. I just want to reiterate what everyone was saying before, thanking the mayor and administration for getting the township up and running for the children of Shirah. And also want to wish all the school children and teachers a wonderful school year. Hopefully it'll be as normal as possible for everybody. Also, I would like to just make everyone aware, there's an event that's going to be held in town at Lombardi Field over a number of weekends in the fall, starting on actually September 25th. It's the Healthy Kids Running Series. So it's a series of races that that children participate in. I believe it's ages 2 to 14. So reading directly from the site, the Healthy Kids Running Series is a national, inclusive, and fun youth running experience, inspiring children to believe in themselves and lead an active and healthy lifestyle. It's conducting a safe 5-week in-person fall running series, featuring a once-a-week racing at more than 200 locations across the United States. One of those locations is Lombardi Field. They have a Facebook page that is out there that has all the information, one specifically for Old Bridge. So if anyone wants to get more information on that, it is Healthy Kids Running Series, Old Bridge, New Jersey. Kids can sign up and be part of a race around Lombardi Field. I think it'll be a great thing for some of the kids in our neighborhoods and in our community to kind of get involved with. I know it's also Old Bridge Day in the 25th, so maybe folks can make a whole day out of it. Also, with this weekend's 9/11 anniversary, I know there are many in our community that were affected 20 years ago, and even more new residents that have moved in since that have deep personal ties to that day. It doesn't matter how many years have passed, the time will not erase what happened on that day. But I'll ask, just like I did at our last council meeting, to just check in on your family, friends, and neighbors of those who are affected. Just be a friendly ear to those folks. Sometimes all they need is someone to listen to them, for any given reason. So, just look out for your neighbors, especially in this time, knowing that we were so close to ground zero, and so many folks were affected. And then finally, just in regards to just some of the onslaught of accidents we've happened, throughout town, just asking everyone, please be aware of your surroundings and drive safely. Just during this meeting alone, an alert came across about an accident on Route 9 between Bridge and Texas Road in Marlboro. A pedestrian was hit. This is happening way too much, way too often. So, please, between the fatalities and the major accidents that we've had, we as a community need to be those change agents, to ensure that each and every one of us get home safely, no matter what time of day it is. That extra 30 seconds to a minute that you're going to save by instead of going 50, going 70, it's not worth your life or somebody else's. So, please, everyone, just drive safely. I know a lot of us, every time I hear an alert at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, it gives me cringes, especially lately. So please, just everyone drive safely, and for everyone who has been in major accidents and fatalities, just my heart and my condolences are with those families. That'll conclude my comments, Council President.
Okay, thank you, Mr. DeFranco.
Dr. Greenberg Belli?
Yes, I did want to mention that this was a very difficult time of 9/11, to think that 20 years have passed. It was the first ceremony in town that I've missed since we've been holding them, and it was due, obviously I had to be at a wedding because of the pandemic. So many weddings were canceled last year, and I guess they got this date, but it was very hard. It's hard when you know someone. It's hard how you look at the United States, what happened at that time, and to think where we are today, that we are a divided people. And that is such really a tragedy. And it is very sad. And when that happens, when we all are Americans, we should be united. We should support each other. And right now is very difficult times for those who were in Afghanistan. I know I've had relatives who've served there several tours, and they're having a very difficult time right now. And in the beginning, I wanted to mention that, but my audio was bad. The 13 young service members that were literally killed just days before we left there, which is truly a tragedy. And I did want to read their name into the record, so we never forget them also. and their lives, young lives that were taken away. And the way that 20 years went by, you have to question, really, what for? What for? But their names I want to say: Ryan C. Noss, Darren T. Hoover, Dagan W. Page, David L. Espinosa, Nicole L. G., Jarrett M. Schmitz, Kareem M. McCoy, Johanny Rosario Pichardo, Umberto A. Sanchez, Hunter Lopez, Maxton W. Soviak, Dylan R. Marola, Riley J. McCollum. May we never forget their sacrifices. There were 18 other service members that were injured, and at least 150 Afghan civilians that were killed in that attack. May we always defend freedom, and may freedom ring in this country forever. Never forget. Thank you.
Mr. Merwin?
Yes. Thank you, Anita. It was nice of you to read those names. Mayor, I sent you a letter in reference to some flooding that we've been having down in Lawrence Harbor. And I know with Ida, it was an extraordinary flooding, but it's the same places. And I'm wondering what we did since I wrote you that letter. Have we contacted the people that I suggested, or?
We are working on a response, Mr. Marwin. We've been a little busy over the last few days,
Yeah,
but
I
we are
know.
working on a response.
All right.
I have engineering detailing all the projects that have taken place in that area, all the projects the state has done. We will provide you with a thorough response.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Now, speaking about accidents, Route 35 and Lawrence Parkway has become a magnet for accidents, but they're just not regular accidents. Unfortunately, this past weekend, we lost a soul that was killed in the accident. The cars are flipping. They're literally rolling over. It's not one, but at least a dozen. We need to have the DOT investigate that intersection. I believe it is probably the hard ends of the divider where you go to other intersections. They have those collapsible ends to the divider. They don't have that at Route 35 and Lawrence Parkway. That could be one of the reasons. But if we could get the DOT to make a study of that area, it would be appreciated. And I don't know who takes care of that in Machu, with the mayor or whatever, but if somebody would take care of that, I'd appreciate it. And my final, do we have a police director?
We have an acting police chief, not a director.
I believe under our former government, I am the police director.
You are. Are you getting a $10,000 stipend for that?
No, I am not.
No? What's the matter with you? You got to make sure you get your money because everybody else is. They used to get it when they did that job.
Old days.
All right, no, that's all I have for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Merwin.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes, I have two things. The first thing I want to add one name to Anita's list. I served and went to school with Joe Farley, who was on the memorial, and also Tim Matthew, who is not on the memorial. I don't know why or what happened, but I went to school with both of them in Old Bridge. I was on the South Old Bridge Fire Department for 10 years, and they were on the same fire company and died in the same thing. So I don't know what happened there, but I just want to, I always think of him. The other thing, I feel that Redwood development, Red Shore development is going through a grave thing right now with that mall they're building. I don't want to discuss it tonight. There's too much. I'm going to bring it up at the next meeting. But um, I spoke to Gabrielle, and Gabrielle, I'd like to put that on the agenda for discussion next week, okay?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have to say. And I'll have more information next week on it all.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Murphy.
Mr. Piscitty?
Yes, tonight, H5 passed ordinance for an amount of $1,895,000 grant money from the American Rescue Plan Act. And we're using it to improve our parks, Control Forum and Menino. And I think it was worth mentioning that this was a great way to use federal grant money so all the residents of Old Bridge can benefit. And I thought it was important to recognize that this is the way the grant money is being applied. Also, poll workers are needed for the general election and for early voting. If anybody wants to be a poll worker, please send me an email. You just have to be registered in Middlesex County. Also, I want to mention, I don't believe it's a proper protocol for employees to be addressing the council via letters. I believe that the protocol is an administrative function, and the employees should be addressing their concern to their immediate department supervisor. And then if it needs to go further, then it goes to the business administrator, Matthew Shop. This is the way it's always worked as far as I remember. And I don't know why we're jumping protocol. And I'd like to know, Gabrielle, I know we all got that letter in an email. Was that specifically asked to be read at the council meeting?
Yes, it was submitted as a public comment.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Piscitty. I think I'm muted again.
You're not. Right. Sorry.
Thank you.
Mr. Rizzoli?
No comments, thank you.
Ms. Walker?
Yes, I'm going to keep it short because it's very late. I just want to say that I attended this year's 9/11 ceremony, and it was extremely moving and emotional. And I just can't believe 20 years have passed since that tragic day. And I just hope it continues to go on, our ceremony, even when we're long gone. And that's all I want to say.
Council President?
Yes, thank you. I also just wanted to say what a touching, moving ceremony that was. And to thank Mayor administration and all the township employees for making it such a special event for the families. This year it was so well attended. There were so many people there. And I think, you know, it really reflects what kind of a town we are. Former Mayor Cannon spoke, and she was the mayor at the time. And she, you know, recalled all the things that the town did as a town to help, both there at Ground Zero by sending supplies and so on. And the telethon, you know, fundraiser we did for our local residents who had lost loved ones. So I must say, I'm always really taken by how much Old Bridge cares about our residents, and we won't forget, because this is something that we really every year make sure that people are recognized, and they were. And I really think this year was absolutely beautiful. The music, everything that was it was just such a great tribute to these people. That being said, I just wanted to say the same thing for the Charade Day. I was there, and Councilman Rizzoli was there. Unfortunately, a few of the council people, Mrs. Walker wasn't feeling well. There was reasons why other people couldn't attend, but I have to say it was done really well. I think it was absolutely great to see the children. It brought back for me a lot of memories. Now the mothers are saying, oh, I went to school with your daughter and your son. I'm like, oh my goodness. But anyway, it was just nice to see how we pulled together again as a community and as a council and, you know, administration, the mayor, to have a plan. When the chips are down, we come through. Mr. Rizzoli is an early riser, 6 o'clock phone calls, God help me. But anyway, in the meantime, I think it went really, really well. And the other thing is I just want to give a shout out to OEM, because as of the last couple of weeks, they have really been working. Mike Petchower has really stepped up. He's, been doing a lot of this, and he really has tried the utmost to keep us as safe as possible. He even had, I heard, the mayor directing traffic down on Lawrence Parkway. So again, we try to do the best we can for our residents, wherever they are, whatever they need, we're there for you. And I really think that the last couple of months with all that's gone on shows that, we do care. We really, truly care about our residents, each and every one of us. So thank you again, everyone, and everyone have a great evening. Thank you. I'd like to take a motion to adjourn.
Move. Second.
Second.
Okay, made by,
Mr. Biscotti, and I think second by Dr. Greenberg.
yep. Mhm.
Ms. Brown is absent. Mr. De Palma.
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg Belli.
Yes.
Mr. Merwin.
Yes.
Mr. Murphy.
Yes.
Mr. Piscitty.
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli.
Yes.
Ms. Walker.
Yes.
President Salvor.
Yes.
That's 8 ayes to adjourn.
Okay.
Good night, everybody.
Everyone.
Good night, everyone.